Immortal Cultivation family, starting with extreme effort to gain experience. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101 Attempt. Although the cost of the spiritual stones was a bit too much, which made him feel very sad, he finally achieved his goal. In this way, he made up for a very important part of his own and his family members' shortcomings. Soon, the auction house sent the jade slip of the kindling technique to the box. Luya checked it and found no problem. After paying the spiritual stones, he stood up and left through the secret passage behind him. This time he did not bring Modu with him, so he was not as noticeable as last time when walking in the crowd. Luya walked slowly all the way, and when he passed by the Yunjian building, his steps paused. At the door, a young man was welcoming and seeing off people. Although his low-grade robe was simple, it was spotlessly clean. He had a warm smile on his face, as if nothing could make him angry. It was obvious that he was no longer a waiter. After the young man sent the two female guests away, he turned his eyes and saw Luya standing in the crowd. He pondered for a few breaths, and then walked towards Luya. It was obvious that he had recognized Luya as one of the distinguished guests to whom he had given his identity jade card. But when he just took a step, he found that Luya turned and walked into the crowd. He disappeared from his side in just 2 steps, as if he had never appeared. He stopped, no longer entangled, and continued to entertain the guests. Luya did not take this little episode to heart. After leaving the city, he flew straight into the sky in the envious and eager eyes of many cultivators and mortals, and soon disappeared from their sight. The journey was safe and soundless, and when he returned to the family, the sun was about to set. In mid-air, Luya looked at the clan land through the clan protection formation. The clan land, which was not big in his impression, now has a pond and more than a dozen new houses, one of which is a new refining room for Luya. At this time, the old refining room was brightly lit, and sporadic iron forging sounds floated out from the window. He knew it was his fourth uncle Luya without guessing. Since he handed over the real weapon refining technique to his uncle has been meditating and practicing every day, and has been thinking about weapon refining technique. He was so focused that he almost forgot himself. And the progress brought by this crazy learning and practice was also amazing. Thanks to the abundant weapon refining materials in the family and the accumulation of decades in the past, in just a few months, his uncle Luya completed 3 consecutive jumps and became a qualified first-level senior weapon refiner. He is currently striving to refine the best magic weapon. If he succeeds in refining it, the number of people in the family who can refine the best magic weapon will increase to 2. Since Luya needs to practice magic on weekdays, he doesn't have much time to help family members refine magic weapons. So once Luya breaks through, he can quickly arm family members, greatly improve the combat effectiveness of family members, and in the days to come, he can also refine magic weapons and sell them to continuously accumulate wealth for the family. He cast his eyes on the pond. Modu was now revealing half of his body, with his head resting on the shore, closing his eyes and breathing. After sensing Luya's gaze, its huge snake pupils opened, and when it saw that it was Luya, it stood up to greet him with its tongue spitting out. Luya stopped its movements, and in a flash, he had already passed through the formation and landed on his own residence. There was only one spiritual stone lamp on in the room, and there were a few dishes on the table, which were slightly steaming under the effect of a constant temperature ban. Although Luya could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to maintain his body's needs after building his foundation, and no longer needed to eat to obtain energy, eating was still a habit of his. After all, sleeping had been replaced by his practice. If even the greatest pursuit of life, eating, was replaced, then life would be boring. Luya sat down at the table, picked up the bowl and chopsticks and started eating. Not long after, the food on the table was swept away. After eating and drinking, Luya sat cross-legged on the futon again and took out the newly acquired kindling technique. Then he took a deep breath, probed his consciousness into it, and began to study it carefully. 2 hours later, Luya opened his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. The grade of this kindling technique is about between the first-order advanced and the second-order elementary, mainly depending on the strength of the practitioner's soul. The principle is also very simple. After practicing, The cultivator can slightly control his overflowing soul energy and turn it into a barrier to resist attacks specifically targeting the soul. If necessary, he can also actively control his own soul energy to actively resist attacks. Of course, there is a big difference between the soul and the consciousness. The consciousness is only the outermost layer of the cultivator's soul, just like the signal emitted by the signal tower, which can explore and perceive the outside world. The soul is equivalent to the signal tower itself, which cannot move. When facing external attacks, there is no other way except to rely on itself. Protective spells such as kindling are equivalent to putting a protective shield on the outside of the signal tower to resist external attacks. Of course, there is another type of spell to protect the soul, which is to strengthen the soul, similar to replacing the signal tower with a stronger and more durable material to obtain stronger protection. After memorizing all the details of the kindling technique in his mind, Liu Ye put down the jade slip and went over it carefully in his mind several times before trying to practice. The next morning, Liu Ye, who had practiced all night, sighed softly. Although he had tried very hard last night, he only had a slight feeling at most, not even a clue. It can be seen that his talent for magic is really worrying, and the gap between him and the legendary magic genius who can learn it at a glance is too big. After getting his mood in order, Liu Ye stopped struggling and got up from the futon and walked out. Not long after, Liu Ye appeared in his refining room. With a flick of his finger, a bit of the sun's true fire fell into the refining furnace, and a blazing flame instantly jumped out of it. After arranging the purchased materials one by one, Liu Ye began the preparations before refining. This time, the magic weapon he was going to refine was not difficult, but it was quite special and needed to be handled with caution. To make the longevity beads, you need the sun, gold, and moon as the outline, the things of the changing seasons as the firewood, the warm jade as the medium, the earth essence as the medium, and 12 kinds of gold, iron, jade, and stone objects before you can refine them. After reciting silently several times, Liu Ye took a deep breath and began to formally refine. The longevity bead is a component of a magical instrument recorded in the chapter of the 9-part art of refining instruments. When Liu Ye saw it for the first time, he was also surprised. The main reason is that the longevity bead only has the function of collecting lifespan, and the object of collection is naturally not the user. Liu Ye also went through a lot of ideological struggles before finally deciding to refine this magical instrument. In fact, the requirements of other magical instruments are too high, and it is not possible for him, a beginner in refining instruments, to successfully refine them. This time he prepared a total of 5 sets of materials. As long as the longevity bead is successfully refined, then the magical instrument will not fail. Dear all, it's the end of the month, and it will be a waste if you don't vote. Chapter 102, The Beast Tide emerges, the situation suddenly changes. In the heat-wave-filled refining room, Liu Ye was shirtless, working hard on the forging. As he put materials such as sun gold and moonstone into the refining furnace one by one, the prototype of the Jiaoxiao pearl gradually took shape in the flame. Liu Ye was fully focused, trying his best to control the flame and prevent it from fluctuating too much. When the Jiaoxiao pearl was formed, the temperature requirement was extremely strict. According to the records of the magic weapon chapter in the refining inheritance, the temperature must be maintained at the point where all the materials can just melt. If the temperature is low, the materials inside the Jiaoxiao pearl cannot be perfectly integrated. If the temperature is high, it is easy to melt the Jiaoxiao pearl. No matter what, it will lead to the failure of the Jiaoxiao pearl refining. In the flame, a ball of liquid gradually turned into a circle. After 3/4 of an hour, Liu Ye took out a gray bead from the refining furnace. The bead was oval, and there was an irregular pattern on the surface, which was a sign that the materials were not fully integrated. Obviously, this refining ended in failure. Liu Ye brought the failed product to his eyes, carefully observed it for a long time, and then put it down. The temperature was a little low, resulting in insufficient fusion of the materials, and the longevity bead was not formed. Liu Ye's heart was calm. After carefully summarizing the experience of the first time, he started to refine again. The second time, a bead with cracks on the surface was put aside by Liu Ye. Failure. The third time, a round but pale longevity bead was born from the refining furnace. Failure. The fourth time, a round and black and white longevity bead appeared in front of Liu Ye. Still failed. Liu Ye took a deep breath. Just now was the closest time for him to succeed, but because of a slight omission in the flame, a small part of the fusion had problems, which eventually led to failure. After closing his eyes and adjusting his breath for a while, Lu Ya stood in front of the refining furnace again and started refining again. He tried to be meticulous in the placement of each material, and tried his best to fully melt each material. The longevity bead was formed in the refining furnace again. Lu Ya's eyes sparkled, and all his consciousness was focused on the furnace. He tightly controlled the flame to the most suitable temperature. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Until a perfect black and white bead was born from the flame, the pale Lu Ya smiled. Finally succeeded. Without time to relax, Lu Ya immediately began to make seals with both hands, and he hit the seals into the longevity bead floating in the air. There were more and more seals, and the luster of the longevity bead became brighter and brighter. Until Lu Ya hit the last seal into it, the longevity bead suddenly burst out with a burst of black and white light, forming an illusory big mouth, and then slowly disappeared into the air. The black and white bead spun in the air, and then Lu Ya stretched out his hand to hold it. He looked at the fist-sized longevity bead in his hand, and his heart trembled. The phantom that just burst out actually made him, a forger, feel threatened, which was really not common sense. Thinking about the function of this thing, which is to devour life, Lu Ya became more careful. According to the requirements, Lu Ya first imprinted his own consciousness on the Jiashao pearl, and then squeezed out a drop of blood essence and dripped it on its surface. As soon as the blood touched the smooth surface of the Jiashao pearl, it quickly penetrated into the inside of the pearl. That speed was almost not like penetration, but more like it was actively absorbing and digesting. At the same time, Lu Ya's heart moved, and the feeling in the dark made him open the skill panel. The original 21,278 years old in the life column has now quietly changed to 21,277 years old. It actually devoured a year of my life without making a sound. Lu Ya's heart was awe-inspiring. Although he knew before forging that this thing would devour the owner's life for a year when it recognized the owner, he didn't expect it to be so obscure and quick. Putting the Jiashao pearl into the storage bag, Lu Ya didn't have time to breathe a sigh of relief before he felt that the earth was shaking wildly. He rushed out of the refining room in an instant, appeared in midair, and looked to the west. On the endless land, a large number of monsters in the mountains were running wildly, rushing towards the Lu clan's land. Beast tide? Or has the plan to purge humans begun? Lu Ya's guess flashed through his mind, and then he quickly appeared at the westernmost end of the formation. When Lu Ya arrived, Lu Dingbo and Lu Dinghe had already appeared, and then Modu's huge body also came in the air. Modu, do you know what's going on? The last beast tide was only 7 years ago. Logically, beast tides should not occur so frequently. Lu Ya looked at Modu and asked, Master, this. The little snake is also wondering. Modu looked at the black line in the distance and said, it is obvious that these monsters are driven, and the target is very clear, that is our Lu family. Then, it said, I guess it should be the three-eyed king who is back, and he is looking for clues for the last incident. In fact, he guessed most of it right. The three-eyed king who participated in the 10,000 Monsters Conference has indeed returned. The beast tide was also his order, but it was not to find out the reason why his subordinates died last time, but to execute the will of the great monster Fumen. At this moment, at the end of the beast tide, a thunderwater heavy-eyed toad as big as a house was chewing the corpse of a human monk with relish, and his eyes were full of tyranny and murder. The king's decision is really wise and powerful. These lowly humans should become food for us monsters. Quack, the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad swallowed the corpse in its mouth hole, opened its huge mouth, and let out a roar like thunder. The huge body leaped heavily, and in an instant it jumped 100 feet away, following the beast tide and moving quickly forward. Little ones, the king said that this time we must bloodbath the human race and turn this area into the territory of our demon race. Quack, the consciousness of the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad spread among the beasts, making the eyes of the demon beasts that were running wildly even crazier. They roared and ran forward more and more crazily. Lu Dingbo looked at the rapidly approaching beast tide and shouted in a deep voice, all family members, those below the middle stage of key training, immediately go to the bottom of the meeting hall to take shelter. Those above the middle stage of key training, come to me immediately, quickly. As soon as the voice fell, the clansmen in the clan land immediately began to act. A large number of mortal children ran into the meeting hall, and the cultivators above the middle stage of key training quickly gathered towards Lu Ya and others. In just half an instant of time, the dark group of demon beasts carrying a disgusting fishy wind was about to pounce in front of them. We must not let the beast tide directly attack the clan protection formation. Such a terrifying attack cannot be defended by the clan protection formation. Everyone, follow me and go out to meet the enemy, Lu Dingbo said quickly, and then rushed out of the clan protection formation first, followed by Lu Dinghe and others. Lu Yu stepped on Modu's head, and Modu flew forward quickly. Chapter 103, So what if it hurts the harmony of nature? When passing Lu Dingbo, Lu Ya's voice rang in everyone's ears. Modu and I will go to investigate the situation. Lu Ya, be careful. Second brother, be careful. Seeing this, everyone in the Lu family spoke up. Lu Ya waved his hand and drove Modu forward quickly. Lu Dingbo shouted again, be fully armed, don't hold back. Thanks to the current foundation of the Lu family, all the family cultivators basically have 2 magic weapons on their bodies, one for attack and one for defense, but the grades are high and low. At this moment, the patriarch gave an order, and everyone sacrificed their magic weapons. In an instant, colorful lights lit up in the crowd, which looked spectacular. However, opposite the Lu family, a large number of low-level monsters rushed towards them with a large area of black and red demonic energy. The demonic energy flickered with movement, accompanied by thunder-like explosions, suffocating. Everyone seemed to have a big stone pressing on their hearts, and they were almost unable to breathe. Lu Yu stepped on Modu, looking down from a high place, and saw 2 wheel-sized scarlet eyeballs that were nested in each other in the black cloud behind the beasts. It's the old toad with heavy eyes of thunder and water. Modu's angry roar reached Lu Ya's ears. Lu Yu quickly asked, Modu, what is the heavy eyes of thunder and water toad? Tell me clearly. While speaking, Lu Ya did not forget to put on the protective aura. Modu heard Lu Ya's question and calmed down a little. He said, the body of the old toad is a heavy eyes of thunder and water toad. I heard that its bloodline is extremely strong, proficient in the Taoist arts of thunder and water, and has a pair of compound eyes. It is cunning and cruel by nature, and is extremely difficult to deal with. I didn't like it when I was in the mountains. That means there is a grudge, and it suffered a loss. Lu Yu understood, and without asking about the feud between the two, he continued to ask, does it have any weaknesses or something like that? Modu's huge snake head shook, saying, I don't know, I have only dealt with it 2 or 3 times, I only know that its demonic power is close to the peak of the 2nd level, and I have never met it since then. A demon beast at the peak of the 2nd level. Lu Ya's heart sank. A demon beast of this level is not far from the 3rd level. It is hard to say when the opponent will break through and become a demon king level existence comparable to the human golden elixir. We must not let it rush into the family formation, otherwise, no one will survive. Lu Ya did not dare to be arrogant anymore, and carefully hid his body behind Modu's huge horn. At the same time, he fired golden sword energy at the beast group below, shooting at one of the 1st level advanced demon beasts. Bits of blood bloomed in the beast group, and were quickly submerged. The Ju Shaozu in Lu Ya's storage bag lit up slightly. Whenever Lu Ya killed a demon beast, it would always flash. It was as if it had life, recording the lifespans recorded. Lu Yu took out the Ju Shou Pearl, and after a brief sense, he found that the lifespans in it had accumulated to about 10 years. The final requirement of the Ju Shou Pearl, 1,000 years, was getting closer and closer. However, this brutal way of plundering lifespans made Lu Yu feel a little unnatural. This method seems to be against the harmony of nature. And it really doesn't look like the righteous way. He said this, but his hands did not slow down at all, trying his best to kill every 1st level high-level monster he saw, and he was very happy to harvest. Against the harmony of nature? Does he care about this? These monsters are going to die anyway, so making more contributions before they die is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Modu carried Lu Ya into the black cloud and rushed quickly to the back of the beast group. At the back of the beast group, the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad stared at its frog eyes as big as wheels, watching Modu's winding and huge body approaching it quickly, and suddenly laughed like thunder. Little reptile, I was wondering why I didn't find you in the mountains. So you hid here. I was still heartbroken about not having a meal of dragon snake soup, but I didn't expect you to come to my door. Quack. The decision of the 3-eyed king was indeed correct. We should eat undisciplined monsters like you, old toad, Modu roared, his anger rising. Quack, the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad suddenly let out a loud cry, and a lightning bolt shot from its belly towards Modu's snake head in an instant. The lightning bolt was extremely swift and full of tyranny. Modu only had time to turn his snake body around before the lightning bolt hit the snake scales on his back. A large piece of lightning bolt spread along Modu's snake body, and Modu's movement stagnated. If Lu Ya hadn't used the wind control technique in time to deflect it by half a point, it would have been pierced through the heart by the sharp water arrow that followed. Old Toad, Modu narrowly avoided the lightning and water arrows, and roared with gnashing teeth. Then he was not to be outdone, and the horn on his head lit up instantly, and a black ray shot straight at the thunder water heavy-eyed toad. However, two pupil lights shot out from the wheel-like eyes of the thunder water heavy-eyed toad, colliding with Modu's black ray in the air, and then disappeared into thin air. Ha ha ha, little reptile, use some strength. Quack, the thunder water heavy-eyed toad laughed again like thunder, and its thick tongue was like lightning, turning back and forth twice in the air and shooting at Lu Ya, who was hiding behind Modu's horn. It had long noticed this human hiding behind Modu's horn, and if it didn't make a move, it would kill Lu Ya. Paw, the wet tongue stuck to Lu Ya's protective aura. Seeing this, Lu Ya naturally loosened his hand, and the whole person quickly closed the distance with the thunder water heavy-eyed toad along with the pulling force. Modu saw this, a trace of pity flowed in his eyes. This old toad, why would he find someone else, the young master? It would be fine if he found the young master, but why did he stuff the young master into his mouth? He's as brainless as the violent ape. Lu Dingbo, Lu Dinghe, and Lu Feng, who is in the late stage of key training, had already rushed into the black cloud and were fighting with the leading monster. At this time, he saw a long tongue crossing the void and pulling out Lu Ya, who was hiding behind Modu's horn, and he almost screamed. Lu Yuan rushed forward desperately, trying to save Lu Ya. Just when the long tongue shrank to the wheel's big eye, everyone in the Lu family saw a bright golden beam fire appear at the tip of Lu Ya's finger. As soon as the beam fire appeared, it exploded in an instant and swelled against the wind. In the blink of an eye, it became a sea of fire, covering the long tongue and the owner of the wheel's big eye. Quack, a shocked and angry roar came from the big mouth of the thunder water heavy-eyed toad, and its long tongue flicked, trying to throw Lu Ya off. But how could Lu Ya do as it wished? He stretched out his hand and tightly grasped the muscles on the tongue. The surging sun true fire flowed along the long tongue into its big mouth as if it was free. In the blink of an eye, the golden sun true fire filled the big mouth of the thunder water heavy-eyed toad. The soft flesh was roasted, making a sizzling sound. Lu Ya was like a supreme sun, emitting his power wantonly, and the golden flames almost burned through the gloomy black clouds. Chapter 104, Kill the Peak of the Second Level. The exploding and blazing golden flames were rampant in the sky, showing its power to all the creatures present, and licking the plump flesh and blood wantonly. However, the thunder water heavy-eyed toad was, after all, at the peak of the second stage, and was only one step away from becoming a great demon of the demon race's golden elixir. Although it was in great pain from the burning of Lu Ya's sun true fire, it did not mean that it had no power to resist. Thunder flashed in its wheel-sized frog eyes, and the tyranny in them was about to boil. A shocking frog cry came from its huge mouth, along with a large piece of light blue viscous water that looked like thunder slurry. The thunder slurry oozes out from all parts of its body, and it is controlled by it to pounce on the place covered by the flames. So, Lu Ya saw that the sun true fire, which had been invincible since its birth, could not gain the upper hands in the face of this thunder slurry, and even had a tendency to retreat step by step as time went by. He understood that this was the result of the huge gap in cultivation between the two. If he didn't have magical powers, he wouldn't even have the chance to face this peak second-level monster. The biggest probability is that he would be easily crushed by the opponent with his more powerful cultivation and strength. The water liquid transformed from the thunder slurry offset some of the damage of the sun's true fire. Seeing that the effect of the sun's true fire weakened, Lu Ya did not stop, still holding the opponent's tongue, and bluffed with his free right hand, and the wind roared out like a dragon. The wind helps the fire, and the fire takes advantage of the wind. The power of the transformation of the wind control technique combined with the magical sun's true fire is incomparable to the power of simply stimulating the sun's true fire. The thunder slurry was forced to leave its body surface, and the sun's true fire suddenly surged. Under Lu Ya's control, the wind spun rapidly around the thunder water heavy-eyed toad, and a huge fire tornado rose from the ground, trapping it in the center. Looking at the fire tornado that connected the sky and the earth, feeling the rolling heat waves that twisted the air, the monsters that came to support consciously ran to both sides, fearing that if they ran too slowly, they would be directly turned into ashes by the tornado flames. At this moment, the thunder water heavy-eyed toad slammed the ground with its strong and powerful hind legs, and its huge body like a house jumped up. This jump was like a sharp arrow and lightning. In the blink of an eye, it took Lu Ya into the black cloud, and Modu's huge snake body followed closely behind. Just after breaking through the black cloud, Modu saw two lightning lights dancing like dragons, with their fangs and claws bared, attacking Lu Ya from left and right, constantly attacking and biting. Lu Ya instantly fell into the prison of thunder, while the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad was constantly accumulating strength, and its belly covered with purple spots became bigger and bigger. In a few breaths, its body was more than 3 times larger. Modu, who had penetrated a black cloud, had already seen the power of this move. It was this move that broke its scales and cracked its horn, and it was just a little short of killing it on the spot. Seeing it again, it felt cold in its heart, and a sense of powerlessness spread from its heart again. However, this was not the time for it to be afraid and retreat. Its lifeblood was still in Lu Ya's hands. If Lu Ya died, he would have to be buried with him. "Master, I'll help you," it roared, and its snake tail swung, turning into black light and instantly appearing between the two. It coiled its snake body and blocked Lu Ya's body. Lu Ya glanced at him and once again concentrated on resisting the lightning dragon that kept biting at it. The thunderwater heavy-eyed toad had accumulated power to the limit at this moment, and the lightning was almost overflowing from its huge mouth. It suddenly opened its mouth and let out a loud roar. Quack! Boom! A thick ray of lightning blasted out, and the huge impact shaved the black clouds around Modu and Lu Ya to both sides, and hit Modu's snake-like body at an unavoidable speed. Modu's snake pupils almost shrank into line. The strong life and death crisis made it burst out its demonic power regardless of everything. The soaring horn reached out to the lightning ray. The huge demonic power formed a shield with a sharp horn as the center to protect its body firmly. Modu's huge body was bombarded by the lightning and moved backwards nearly 100 meters. It was not until the lightning dissipated and the shield disappeared that Modu's huge body appeared from the lightning. Its body was covered with traces of lightning erosion, and many places were blasted with blood holes, and even white bones could be seen, but it still survived. With Modu daring the opponent's killing move, Lu Ya was almost not affected at all. The thunderwater heavy-eyed toad in the air no longer had the momentum just now. The previous attack had temporarily drained it. Lu Ya made hand gestures, and his magic power was running fast. After 2 breaths, a strong wind wrapped around his body, and he disappeared from the spot in an instant. Swift wind escape. At a speed of nearly 100 feet in one breath, in just a moment, he appeared in front of the huge pupil of the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad. The wind shock curse was instantly launched, and the wind shock curse, which had reached the peak level, was enough to threaten it. Then the golden sword energy fell like rain. The thunderwater heavy-eyed toad was bound in place by the blue-black strong wind and could only close its eyes in pain. Lu Ya clenched his palms, and a long sword appeared in his hand in an instant. The true fire of the sun climbed on it. The muscles in his arms swelled, and then he slashed with force without any fancy moves. The long sword was as heavy as 1,000 pounds, carrying the momentum of splitting mountains and breaking peaks, and chopped down from the top of its head. As the sword fell, the flames followed like a shadow, and the flames condensed into line and instantly burned through the demon power barrier of the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad and fell on its head. The sharpness of the top-grade magic weapon, without the defensive demonic power, instantly tore through the tough skin and flesh of the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad's head and penetrated into its skull. The true fire of the sun spread along the blade, and the long sword turned red and hot at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lu Ya roared, Modu. Modu immediately understood what Lu Ya meant, dragged his body full of holes and flew in front of the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad, and circled up along its body. Then the power burst out. And the terrifying power burst out from Modu's body, and the thunderwater heavy-eyed toad trapped in the snake coil was strangled again and again. No matter how it struggled, even if it shook Modu's bones to a crackling sound, it still couldn't get rid of Modu's entanglement. Modu, you and I are both demons, why are you helping humans? Let me go, and we will dominate this area together. The thunderwater heavy-eyed toad saw that he couldn't break free, and immediately spoke out. You just remembered that you and I are both demons now? Modu glanced at it with disdain, lowered his huge head, and pointed the horn on his head at its head. Feeling the increasingly hot temperature on the top of his head and the sharp edge that had already pressed against the back of his head, it finally panicked. No, 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 let me go. The true fire of the sun gushed out from the tip of the knife and erupted directly into its skull. The terrifying flames burned its wheel eyes into golden red, and the liquid inside made a gurgling boiling sound. At the same time, Modu poked hard, and the sharp horn pierced directly into its body, completely cutting off its vitality. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 105 Post-War Meeting. When the Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad died, the light emitted by the Jusho pearl on Lu Ya's waist was stronger than any previous time. Lu Ya sensed it a little, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. The Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad alone contributed 20 years of life to the Jusho pearl, which was more than any monster he had killed before. When the second-level peak Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad died, the originally aggressive monster group suddenly showed obvious fluctuations. Seeing this, some second-level monsters with strong intelligence even ran away directly, fearing that they would be left here by Lu Ya and Modu if they ran too slowly. Most of the pressure on the people below disappeared instantly, and the remaining monsters did not cause much casualties with the cooperation of everyone. Lu Ya took Modu and continued to kill the second-level monsters in the herd, doing his best to collect life for the Jusho pearl. A sudden beast tide also dissipated in the suddenness. After the battle, Lu Dingbo commanded his tribesmen to clean up the battlefield and treat the wounded, while Lu Ya and Modu flew to the pond with the bodies of the Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toads. By the pond, Lu Ya looked at the Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toads, which were lying on their belly and yet as dead as could be, and felt awe in his heart. Although his son Shrew Fire played a significant role in this battle, the disadvantages of his own cultivation had already been revealed. Even though he was at the Heavenly Deo Foundation building stage and had magical powers, the gap of 3 small realms still made him somewhat powerless when facing the peak second-level monster beasts. Although the Sun True Fire still maintained sufficient lethality, it could not kill the intermediate or primary monster beasts as soon as they were touched. This was not a problem of magical powers, but a problem of his personal cultivation. If they were at the same realm, Lu Ya would have no pressure to hit 10 Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toads in one breath, but he was just a cultivator who had just established his foundation. Realm, this is also an important part of combat power, Lu Ya muttered to himself. Then he turned his attention to the Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad. The corpse of a peak second-level monster was not full of treasures, but it was not far behind. The flesh and blood alone were all very nourishing, not to mention the precious materials such as the bones and demon pills. If a monster of this level was sold, it would definitely sell for a very high price, but there was no need. He looked at Modu. At this moment, Modu was extremely miserable. Not only was his body covered with the wounds, but there were also large pieces of snake scales that were charred and rolled up, and blood holes of various sizes were all over his body. It was staring at the corpse of the Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad, its eyes shining, and large drops of saliva dripping from its mouth. Lu Ya asked in confusion, "Can you still eat it?" It was not that he was unwilling to give this corpse of a peak second-level monster to Modu, but because he had just eaten 3 monsters of the same level not long ago, and logically he should not be able to eat it. Modu hesitated for 2 breaths, and then the huge snake head nodded frantically, indicating that he could still eat 2 more bites. Lu Ya's face darkened, and the idea of rewarding it disappeared instantly. "I'll leave half of this thing for you. When you've digested it, go find my Uncle Lu Tong and take out this half of the body and eat it. You won't be afraid of eating it to death now, oh?" Modu originally thought that this Thunderwater Heavy-Eyed Toad had nothing to do with it, but he didn't expect that there was still half. He immediately opened his mouth wide and was about to lick Lu Ya with his snake tongue, but was stopped by Lu Ya. In desperation, it had to lick its face and said happily, "Young master is really kind-hearted, and the little snake is very grateful. Okay, go and heal your wounds quickly. I'll ask the tribesmen to come over later and apply some medicine to speed up the healing of your wounds." Lu Ya couldn't stand this thing. He really couldn't understand how Demon Snake in the deep mountains and old forests could lick like this. Leaving the pond, Lu Ya soon came to the family meeting hall. At this moment, in the center of the meeting hall, there were 4 corpses covered with white cloth. These were the tribesmen who unfortunately died in the beast tide. Their wives and husbands were either lying on the corpses and wailing, or with tears in their eyes and clenched fists. Lu Ya also looked sad, and walked into the hall calmly. After a long while, Lu Dingbo stood up. There was sadness and numbness in his eyes. After a round of inspection, he finally fell on the 4 corpses in the middle and slowly said, "This beast tide came too suddenly. It is fortunate enough that the family was able to survive." After a pause, he cast his eyes on Lu Ya, and then continued, The 4 dead tribesmen will be kept for 1 day and buried according to the tribe rules. Their descendants will enjoy first-class resources until they reach adulthood, and their blood relatives will be supported by the tribe. It is not easy to practice. I hope you will keep your heart to seek the way, be brave and diligent, and don't let today's tragedy happen again. The monks stay, and the rest of you go back to rest." After speaking, he waved his hand with effort, signaling everyone to disperse. After everyone left, Lu Dingbo sat down at the first seat tiredly, and then said softly, "The family is still weak. If it weren't for Lu Yang, our Lu family would probably be destroyed. Indeed, even if there is a clan protection formation, it will be easily broken when facing a beast tide of this scale," Lu Dinghe added. Everyone was silent. Lu Yer looked at the clan members. Almost everyone was injured, so he stood up and said, "Think about it, if it was 3 years ago, what would be the outcome of our Lu family facing such a beast tide? What outcome? At that time, there was no foundation building, and no magic tools for protection. The outcome was of course that the family formation was broken, and all family members were killed or injured. Look, everyone knows," Lu Ya smiled, "the fact that we can sit here intact now is the result of everyone's joint efforts. As long as we continue to practice, sooner or later, this level of beast tide will not cause any harm to us." After a pause, Lu Ya continued, "However, there is one thing I need to explain to you." Lu Ya looked at Lu Dingbo and Lu Dinghe, then said solemnly, "Today's beast tide is not the end, it's just the beginning." Hiss. The sound of sucking in cold air sounded in the conference hall. Lu Yer waited for them to digest this sentence before continuing. In the Fumang Lake in the westernmost part of Yankee territory, a great demon that had survived the thunder tribulation appeared. This great demon wanted to turn Yankee territory into a world of demon beasts. Some time ago, the three-eyed demon king of the western mountain range went to participate in the demon meeting of the great demons. This beast tide is very likely a premeditated cleanup operation organized by the three-eyed demon king. Whether it is true or not, we have to wait until we contact the surrounding practitioners. If everyone encounters the beast tide, we can be sure." Lu Ya briefly explained the cause and effect of the beast tide, and the hall fell into a deathly silence. After a long time, a slightly magnetic female voice sounded, "Then what should we do? Oh my god, Lihu is obsessed with the firepower of Shuda and forgets the time. I will continue to update tomorrow. Shuda is awesome." Chapter 106 Survival and Preparation. Lu Yer turned around and saw that it was his great aunt Li, but facing her question, Lu Yer was also confused. What should he do? Before the beast tide, he felt that migration was not realistic at all, so he never thought that they would migrate with their entire family. But this was just a beast tide, and the family lost 4 of their fellow tribesmen. The beast tide is far from over, and there will definitely be waves of beast tides waiting for them. If they are lucky enough to withstand it, what awaits them will not be peace, but a higher level existence. Just like a reef that is constantly hit by the waves, it will eventually be completely swallowed by the waves and fall into the bottomless sea. Seeing that Lu Ya didn't speak, everyone's mood gradually became heavy, and the atmosphere in the meeting hall almost solidified. At this time, Lu Dingbo said firmly, "Don't think too much, just get through the present day first. As for the future, with me, Dinghe and Lu Yang, we will always find a way if we work together. If it doesn't work, we can still migrate." Lu Dinghe also nodded and said, "Later, the clan leader and I will go out to see the surrounding area and make further decisions when we come back. This is the only way." Everyone nodded helplessly, and a sense of powerlessness rose from the bottom of their hearts. After the meeting, Lu Yan, Lu Dingbo and Lu Dinghe stood outside the clan protection formation, looking at the gloomy sky. Lu Dingbo said, "If the beast tide is really like Lu Ya said, then the forces in the west of our family must have been attacked by the beast tide. Dinghe, you go to the north, Lu Ya, you go to the south, and I will go to the west to explore." "No, clan leader, I'll go to the west. I'm faster and I have experience." Lu Ya stopped Lu Dingbo and asked. Lu Dingbo shook his head quickly. "No, the danger level in the west is definitely very high. There may be more high-level monsters rushing out of the mountains. If you, Lu Ya, encounter them, it will definitely be very dangerous. You are still young, so let me go. I'd better go. If I really encounter something, I am sure I can escape." After Lu Ya finished speaking, without waiting for Lu Dingbo and the others to say anything, he soared into the sky and flew westward. To the west of the Lu family, there are 3 large and small gathering places for cultivators and mortals. The first one is only a dozen kilometers away from the Lu family. When Lu Yat arrived at this gathering place, there was no intact building in sight. The large formation used to protect against danger had long been trampled by monsters. There was blood everywhere, and corpses everywhere, some of which were monsters and some were human. There were little flames burning in the wreckage of the buildings. Lu Yat walked around the small gathering place twice, but did not find any living life. His heart sank. The situation finally extended in the worst direction he had expected. Taking a first-class medium-grade magic weapon from the hand of a headless corpse, Lu Yat took a last look at this gathering place, and then soared into the sky again. The next two gathering places were basically the same as the first one Lu Yat saw. Even a powerful family with a foundation-building cultivator was trampled by monsters, and Lu Yat didn't even see the corpse of the foundation-building cultivator. However, he did find a lot of martial arts secrets and several spirit stones in this foundation-building family. Looking at the outline of the mountains that could be vaguely seen in the distance, Lu Yat stopped and turned around and flew back in the direction he came from. When Lu Yat returned to the family, Lu Dingbo and Lu Dinghe had already returned. Seeing their solemn expressions, Lu Yat immediately understood that the situation they encountered was basically the same as his own. He was the first to speak. No one of the 3 human settlements in the west survived, and all were buried in the beast tide. Lu Dingbo continued, the same is true in the south. Lu Dinghe brought good news, the 5 human settlements in the north, the Li family survived. Is it the Li family with a late foundation-building cultivator? Lu Dingbo asked. Lu Dinghe nodded, out of caution. I did not have close contact with them, but I exchanged some information with the Li family's foundation-building cultivators. The beast tide they encountered was led by a second-level high-level demon beast, which was repelled by the Li family's foundation-building cultivators, so they survived the beast tide. Lu Yat continued, if that's the case, then there is still hope. At least the gap between the two sides is not so big that it can be crushed. Okay, I won't say more. At present, there are only 3 of us in the family who have built foundations. It can be said that the survival of the Lu family depends on us, Lu Dingbo said very quickly. I will inform them of the migration preparations later. If necessary, we can only give up this place. Migrate. Lu Dinghe's eyes were inquiring. That's right, prepare for migration. Not a direct migration, this is the last resort. Lu Dingbo's eyes were firm. I know this will be very risky, many people will die on the way to migration, even you and I will die on the way. At present, the major human forces in Yankee domain have not made any moves, or they have made moves but we have not received any news yet, but the major forces headed by the Yin-Yang demon sect will not allow the big monster to act like this, and a war will definitely break out between the two sides. If our human race can repel the monster, then there is no need to migrate, just continue to live. But if the human race is defeated by the monster, and the situation is really irreversible, not migrating means being besieged, and then the whole clan will be destroyed, and then our Lu family will migrate as a whole, and we will not be in a hurry. In the next 2 days, I will be responsible for establishing contact with the Li family and Wu Huifang city and other forces. Dinghe, you will come with me, Lu Dingbo said quickly. Lu Yan, you can practice with peace of mind. At present, your combat power is the strongest. Now you are the pillar of the Lu family. Although I know it is unfair for you to let you bear this kind of pressure, but Lu Yan, there is no other way. After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, his face was gloomy. He was unable to face Lu Yan because he had put the burden of the family's survival on the shoulders of a younger generation. Patriarch, don't say that. I am also a member of the family, and I can only do this. Lu Yan smiled indifferently. He was asked to consider the allocation of family resources, adjust the internal and external relations of the family, and negotiate with other forces. Sorry, he couldn't do it like Lu Dingbo. Compared with what Lu Dingbo did, he only had to practice with peace of mind, constantly gain experience, and improve his combat power. And he only needed time and a stable practice environment to let him brush up all his attributes. Back to his residence, Lu Yan did not pause at all and went straight into the practice state. It is unknown when the next beast tide will come, and what level of monsters will come. Before that, more strength means more chances of survival. Lu Yan opened the skill panel. The experience of the wind control technique is only over 20,000, which is still a long way from 200,000. But this is the fastest way to improve strength in the short term. Without hesitation, a gust of wind blew up from his side. Dear all, remember to vote. Chapter 107 Alliance. 2 days passed quickly. During this period, the Lu family did not encounter beast attacks again, so Liu was able to practice with peace of mind. With his hard work day and night, his experience in the wind control technique increased by 3,000 points, almost reaching 25,000. At this rate, it would only take about half a year for him to master the wind control technique, and then he would have one more magical power. But the news brought back by Lu Dingbo made him realize that this was not realistic at all. In the meeting hall, Lu Ya looked at Lu Dingbo and said, "Patriarch, you said that Wuhuifang City was also attacked by a beast tide, or a large beast tide led by a third-level monster." Lu Dingbo nodded solemnly. The wall of Wuhuifang City almost collapsed in half, and there were blood and corpses everywhere. If there were not enough and strong cultivators in the city, and they were led by Jinden's Henrin to drive the third-level monsters and monster groups out of the city, otherwise the city would have collapsed. Even Jinden's Henrin and third-level monsters have entered the scene. Lu Yer was a little shocked. If the previous beast tide was the beginning, then when the third-level monster beasts officially entered the battlefield, the battle between the human race and the monster race officially kicked off. That's right, fortunately Wuhu Market resisted it. Now all the surviving families around Wuhu Market want to move to Wuhu Market, but this has caused prices in the city to skyrocket. The prices of various elixirs and magic tools have almost doubled, and it is even more difficult to find a room in an inn, Lu Dingbo said. If there were not too many Lu clan members, he would have wanted to take his clan members to temporarily move to Wuhu Market. After all, there is a Jinden's Henrin sitting there. If there is a beast tide coming, it is enough to block most of the dangers. Let's not talk about this for now. This time I went to Wuhu Market and purchased a batch of supplies. I may not have the opportunity to purchase them later. Everyone is in danger at this time. Fortunately, Wuhu Xianbao Pavilion still has supplies, but the price increase is a bit large. Now is not the time to save spirit stones. After a while, there may be no spirit stones to buy elixirs and magic tools and other combat supplies. Lu Dinghe nodded and said, "Dinghe, notify all clansmen to prepare the migration materials. If the situation is not right, we can only rush to Wuhu Market or Shaoxan City." Just as the three were discussing, a majestic and grand voice sounded from above the Lu family. "Li Shaon of the Li family, please ask the Lu clan leader to come out and talk." Lu Yat and the other two heard the words, looked at each other, and then left the meeting hall together. After leaving the meeting hall, Lu Ya saw a tall and thin middle-aged man in a yellow robe standing in the air. His expression was calm, without any emotional fluctuations. Next to him, there was a beautiful woman in her early 30s. Her appearance was too far away to be seen clearly, but her enchanting figure was clearly visible. After seeing Lu Yat and the other two, the two took the initiative to fall from the air. When Lu Dinghe saw him, he immediately said, "The middle-aged man in the lead is the current clan leader of the Li family. He has a cultivation level of the middle stage of foundation building. I negotiated with him before. Next to him is another foundation building cultivator in the Li family. He has a cultivation level of the early stage of foundation building." Lu Dingbo immediately knew what was going on. Then he took Lu Ya and walked towards the two of them in 2 steps. Although his face did not show much joy, it gave people a pleasant feeling. When he was about 10 meters away from the two, Lu Dingbo stopped and then opened a gap in the clan protection formation that blocked them. Seeing this, the two Li family members smiled politely at first, then stepped across the clan protection formation and walked in front of Lu Dingbo and Lu Ya. Lu Ya stood beside Lu Dingbo and carefully observed the two people opposite. Although the two concealed it well, he still saw a trace of fatigue on their faces. Of course, his own patriarch and third grandfather were in this state. "Li Shaon of the Li family, I apologize for my intrusive visit. I hope that Patriarch Lu will forgive me." Li Shaon stopped and bowed. Lu Dingbo also returned the greeting and said, No, I am the head of the Lu clan, Lu Dingbo. This is my Lu clan's descendant, Lu Yam. I am here to greet you two fellow Taoists. Hello, head of the Lu clan. Hello, fellow Taoist Lu Yang. A hint of surprise flashed in Li Shao's eyes. He seemed to have not expected that the Lu clan would have such a young foundation-building cultivator. Lu Yan also returned the greeting to the two people with a normal look. After the two sides finished greeting, Lu Dingbo asked directly, "I wonder why you two came to my Lu clan." Li Shaon pulled the corner of his mouth bitterly, and then said, "To be honest with head of the Lu clan, my Li clan encountered another beast tide in the early morning of this morning. The leader was still a second-level high-level monster. Although my Li clan repelled the beast tide, we also lost a lot of clan members." "Did the Li clan encounter a beast tide again?" Lu Dingbo was a little surprised. It had only been a short time, and this frequency was too high. Yes, we encountered it again, and judging from the situation, the next beast tide will not be too long. Li Shaoan closed his eyes, slowed down, and said with difficulty, this beast tide is determined to wipe out our Li family from Yankai territory. Patriarch Li, you also understand this situation. If you are coming to the Lu family to seek help at this moment, I can only say sorry, Lu Dingbo said in a serious tone. No, Patriarch Lu misunderstood. Li Shaoan waved his hand. Everyone is in danger, how dare we ask for help? But Patriarch Lu, forgive me for being blunt, even if we survived 1 or 2 beast tides, can we survive every beast tide? At this point, his purpose was very clear. Lu Yan also understood that the Li family came here to form an alliance. Lu Dingbo also understood this, so he shook his head. Li Shaoan then said solemnly, so, my Li family came here this time to form an alliance with the Lu family in order to overcome this difficulty together. Alliance? Lu Dingbo pondered for a moment and asked, Patriarch Li, my Lu family and your Li family are 40 miles apart. After the alliance, if a beast tide occurs, it seems too late to rescue. That's right. Li Shaoan nodded in agreement, and then said, so our 2 families must unite their forces and gather all their strengths together to have a chance to overcome the difficulties. Gather together? Do you want my Lu family to move there? Lu Yer thought to himself. As if she had heard Lu Ya's thoughts, the charming woman beside Li Shaoan opened her plump red lips and said, don't worry, Patriarch Lu, the alliance between our 2 clans does not mean that one of us will relocate the entire clan. When I came here, I observed that there is a valley between our 2 families, which is very suitable for defense. What I mean is that our 2 clans will move all their living forces here. In this way, our defense capabilities will be greatly enhanced, and both the strength of the cultivators and the formations will be better able to deal with the beast tides that will come later. After the charming woman finished speaking, she looked at Lu Yat and the other 2, and said in a charming voice, I wonder what Patriarch Lu and fellow Taoist Lu Yer think. Chapter 108 Relocation. It has to be said that sometimes women play a much bigger role than men. If Li Shaoan said these words, Lu Dingbo would have to think more. At least he would have to judge in his heart whether the other party was sincere. But these words were just right for this charming and gentle female foundation-building cultivator. It did not make Li appear too strong, and it also greatly reduced Lu's defensiveness. Lu Dingbo hesitated for a moment before solemnly saying, this matter is of great importance. Let us think about it. Seeing his performance, Li Shaoan and the charming woman looked at each other, and both saw the relief in each other's eyes. In this extraordinary period, they were afraid that Lu would directly refuse or agree. Now that Lu needs to discuss, it means that the other party has listened to their suggestions and will not make a rash decision. This is good news. After walking a distance, Lu Dingbo played a silent note and looked at Lu Yan. Lu Yan, what do you think about this? Lu Yan had already thought about it during the communication. When Lu Dingbo asked him about it, he said directly, the intensity of the beast tide will become higher and higher. If we can't go to Wuhuifang City, then forming an alliance with the Li family and jointly dealing with the beast tide is an inevitable choice. It seems that the Li family is the advocate and the Lu family has the right to choose, but they all know that they have no choice at all. In front of the beast tide, unless they really want to die, otherwise joining forces to fight the enemy is the best solution at present. Lu Dingbo naturally understands this truth, but he has his concerns, so he said helplessly, the Li family has 5 foundation building cultivators, including cultivators in the late stage of foundation building. My Lu family and Modu only have 4 foundation building cultivators, and they are all in the early stage of foundation building. If the 2 clans merge together, I am worried that we will become. Lu Dingbo didn't finish his words, but Lu Ya fully understood that this was a very simple truth. Even if a disaster is about to come, it is still a problem that must be considered. Whether it is an alliance or cooperation, the foundation must be that the strength of the 2 parties is almost the same. If the difference is too great, then the alliance will eventually become a verbal talk. Patriarch, Lu Ya looked into Lu Dingbo's eyes and asked bluntly, is our Lu family weak? Before Lu Dingbo could speak, Lu Ya continued in an affirmative tone, my Lu family is not weak. In a short period of time, my Lu family has produced 3 foundation builders and 2 weapon refiners, and equipped every member of the practicing clan with a magic weapon. How can such a Lu family be weak? And the Li family is not a reckless and arrogant family. They recognize our strength, so they proposed the request for an alliance. No matter from which angle, An alliance is the best way to deal with it at present. There is no other. After Lu Ya finished speaking, Lu Dingbo lowered his head and pondered for a moment, and then said seriously, Lu Yan, you are right, then let's form an alliance. The tone was set, and everything went very smoothly. That day, Lu Yan and others went to the valley with the Li family. The valley is located between the Lu family and the Li family, further east. To be precise, the valley is located southeast of the Lu family and northeast of the Li family. The straight line distance from the Lu family is about 30 miles. Most of the current beast tides rush out from the mountains in the west. The further east you go, the safer it is for the two families. But this is only the range covered by the mountains near them. It may not be the case in other places. After confirming that there are no problems in the valley, the Lu family and the Li family each returned and agreed to set off early the next morning. Fortunately, everyone in the Lu family had been prepared. When Lu Dingbo announced the news of the upcoming relocation, no matter whether they were cultivators or ordinary people, they were not surprised or panicked. The next morning, 37 cultivators and 115 mortals of the Lu family, a total of 152 people, set off. Fortunately, there was Mo Du, a second-level high-level demon beast, with a lot of supplies on his huge body, which reduced a lot of burdens for the mortals of the Lu family. It's not that Mo Du is unwilling to lift up mortals, but mortals can't bear the pressure and breath of monsters of Mo Du's level. The distance of 30 miles is not far. With the pressure of Mo Du's breath, the protection of 3 foundation builders and other cultivators, and the fact that the mortals nourished by spiritual energy are not weak, the whole team is moving very fast. When the sun sets, the Lu team has walked 2/3 of the way. Looking at the gradually setting sun, ordinary people who have never spent the night outside the family's residence inevitably made a slight commotion. Because everyone knows that the night outside the family means death. Under the command of Lu Dingbo, all the people formed an airtight circle. In the center of the circle was a group of half-grown children, and outside were ordinary people, and outside were cultivators with low to high cultivation, and outside were Lu Yat and the other 3, and finally the huge body of Mo Du. Lu Dingbo took out a simple array plate, stuffed it with spiritual stones, and a layer of mist-like gauze floated out of the array plate, covering all the people of Lu family. From the outside, the people of the Lu family gradually disappeared into the air. Lu Yu sat cross-legged facing the west, half a foot above the ground. Behind him were his uncle Lu Feng, Lu Jing and others. Wisps of fine wind swirled around Lu Ya's body, and the wind control technique never stopped. Second brother, Lu Jing sat cross-legged on the ground, looking at Lu Ya's tall back and whispered. Lu Yu turned around, looked at Lu Jing, whose face was slightly sad, and asked calmly, "What's wrong, fifth sister?" Lu Jing asked softly, "Second brother, can I be as strong as you?" Looking at Lu Jing's sad and determined eyes, Lu Yan nodded vigorously without any hesitation. "That's for sure." Lu Jing's mouth moved, and he said weakly, "I also practiced according to the practice experience left by second brother. Why is there no progress at all?" Lu Yu was stunned, so Lu Jing stretched out his hand and pointed at the ground. An array of golden sword energy shot out. Looking at the bowl-sized mud pit in front of her, Lu Yan was speechless for a moment. Seeing Lu Yan's silence, the sadness in Lu Jing's eyes became more and more intense, and the expression on her face gradually returned to normal. "I know that my second brother is a genius, and not everyone can be like him." Lu Yan looked at Lu Jing, who had been immersed in grief since the death of her sixth uncle Lu Zan, and spoke softly again. "No, fifth sister, everyone can be like my second brother, and you are the same." He took out a jade slip from his storage bag and put it in Lu Jing's hand. This is the method of practicing supernatural powers that he summarized based on his own skill panel practice. He doesn't know whether this method is useful to others, how long it will take to reach the level he set in the jade slip, and whether supernatural powers can be born is even more unknown, but it is always a direction. Fifth sister, this is the practice experience summarized by my second brother, which contains a specific description of the power stage of the golden sword energy, which may be useful to you. Everyone, remember to vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, Insane Things. The cultivation experience specially summarized by my second brother. Lu Jing tightly grasped the jade slip in her hand, which was still warm, and was moved. Lu Yu looked at her and said in a gentle tone, "Whether it is the golden sword energy or other spells, the power of the spells can be improved through repeated practice, but many people gradually give up practicing spells because the improvement is too slow. Little do they know that this is to cut off from the great way. The road to the way is full of difficulties and obstacles, so there's the art of protecting the way. If you don't even practice the art of protecting the way well, how can you protect your own way?" Lu Yu paused for a moment before continuing, "Fifth sister, my second brother can't give you anything else. We need to practice step by step, so this is the only thing I can give you. Thank you, second brother." A light burst out of Lu Jing's eyes, and the light was called hope. She must kill all the monsters. The night gradually deepened, and the air was filled with chills in the late autumn night. Many mortals of the Lu family huddled together tightly, relying on each other's body temperature to soothe their trembling hearts. No one could sleep peacefully in the wild. Some people looked around with their eyes open, while others kept their eyes closed and their lips moved constantly. The land that had been trampled countless times by monsters seemed quite quiet at this moment. This silence was transmitted to the Lu family team at some point. The slight commotion gradually disappeared. Some mortals could not resist the torture of sleepiness and gradually lowered their heads. "Hey! It's the first time to spend the night in the wild, and you can actually sleep." Lu Meng looked at the tribesmen who were gradually falling asleep behind him and teased. "Maybe they are too tired. They have been traveling all day from morning to night. It's normal for mortal bodies to be unable to bear it," Lu Tong replied, and then added, "Don't be too loud. Let them have a good rest. They will arrive tomorrow." Lu Meng nodded to show that he understood, and replied softly, "Okay." As time passed, all the mortals of the Lu family closed their eyes one after another and began to fall asleep. After Lu Meng finished meditating, he suddenly felt sleepy. He struggled for a few times, but finally succumbed to the sudden sleepiness and fell asleep. Seeing him like this, Lu Tong didn't say anything, but silently included the area that Lu Meng was responsible for in the scope of observation. Silence spread in the Lu team. Lu Yu suddenly felt a moment of coldness coming from the back of his neck, as if something was lying behind him and blowing a breath of cold air towards his neck and ears. He suddenly opened his eyes and found that the entire team had fallen into deep sleep without knowing when. Even Modu tilted his huge snake head and didn't move. A wisp of cold breath suddenly appeared behind Lu Ya and quietly drilled into Lu Ya's mind. SHH, as soon as the cold breath entered Lu Ya's mind, it was evaporated and gasified by the power emitted by the sun's true fire and disappeared. However, this made Lu Ya startled. If it wasn't the reaction of the sun's true fire just now, he would definitely not be able to sense this wisp of cold breath. He turned his head and looked behind him, only to see that all the tribesmen had drooped their heads, looking like they were sleeping soundly. And on top of their heads, all of them were connected by a translucent silk thread, as if they were puppets. Seeing this, Lu Ye immediately understood that he had encountered an evil spirit. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lu Ye activated the Sun True Fire and Zhuan Yang Yi Qiju at the same time. The blazing golden flames instantly ignited, and the extremely strong and yang power began to radiate in all directions. The coldness on his body immediately disappeared without a trace. At the moment when the cold breath disappeared, Lu Ya seemed to see a translucent shadow flashing in the crowd. And just like that, some weak mortals had almost no blood on their faces, and were pale. "Get out of here." With his body filled with the extremely strong and yang Sun True Fire, Lu Ya pulled it with one hand, and the flames rushed towards the direction of the shadow as if they had life. Unfortunately, it didn't have any effect. "What a fool!" Lu Ya shouted angrily, and waved his hand. The sun's true fire enveloped the Lu family members like water. The extremely strong and yang sun's true fire illuminated the surroundings. Wherever the flames passed, translucent silk threads broke one after another. After the silk threads broke, the members of the family who seemed to be sleeping soundly woke up one after another. All of them were still frightened. Lu Yu took a step forward and appeared in the sky above the center of the crowd. With both hands, the surging sun's true fire surrounded the entire Lu family. "Ah!" A shadow suddenly let out a creepy scream. Lu Yu turned his head instantly, and at the same time, two swords of light shot out from his eyes, shooting directly at the place where the scream came from. Illumination. Then Lu Ya saw a simple twisted human figure with a faint black smoke on a piece of tattered white paper. The moment it was hit by the illumination technique, thick black smoke and a disgusting stench rose from the twisted human figure. "Even the light of the illumination spell can harm this thing," Lu Ye's heart moved. Just as he was about to continue to attack, the white paper suddenly disappeared from Lu Ye's perception. Escaped? Before Lu Ye could react, he heard a shocking scream from his consciousness. His magic power stagnated for a moment, and even the sun's true fire paused. At this moment, the simple distorted figure on the white paper appeared again, but this time it was in front of Lu Ye. The distorted figure leaped with all his strength, ferocious and fierce, rushing towards him like a phantom. In an instant, this weirdness was already in front of him. Lu Ye looked at the distorted figure that pounced in front of him, and his expression did not change at all. Snap! At this moment, Lu Ye put his hands together and firmly grasped the distorted figure in his hands. As soon as he took possession of it, Lu Ye felt a coldness starting from his hands and spreading wildly towards his upper limbs. A trace of ferocity emerged on his face. There is a road to heaven, but you don't take it. There is no door to hell, so you come and surrender. As soon as the voice fell, the golden sun fire surged out again, through his hands, and poured all over the strange body. The twisted figure struggled hard in Lu Ye's hands, and the strength was so great that Lu Ye almost couldn't hold it. But the next moment, Lu Ye squeezed his hands hard in the middle, and his 10 fingers were like steel bars and iron chains, locking it firmly in his hands. The sunfire fell, and a large amount of foul black gas evaporated from the twisted figure. In just 3 breaths, the terrifying weirdness that even the second-level high-level monsters would be hit by disappeared without a trace, and even the white paper was burned clean by Lu Ye's sunfire. It was not until this time that all the talents of the Lu family woke up. As soon as Lu Meng woke up, cold sweat instantly wet his back. Just now, he seemed to be having a lucid dream, and he could see the surroundings, but he couldn't control his body at all. He could only watch the twisted figure swallow him continuously. He turned his head and looked up at Lu Ye in the sky. If Lu Ye had not been there, all of them would have died at the hands of this twisted figure. Chapter 110, Important Matters in Life. After this experience, no one felt sleepy anymore, and they all tried to keep their eyes open until the first ray of sunlight appeared. Lu Ye could hear the exhalations coming from behind him, which was the reaction after escaping death. After eating some dry food, the Lu family quickened their pace along the way, and finally arrived at the preset valley near noon. As soon as they arrived, all mortals breathed a sigh of relief. No need to rush anymore, which means no need to face the dangers that may appear at any time. After resting for a while, the Lu family began to settle down, and the simple tents prepared in advance were set up one by one. After many children had a good rest, they began to be full of energy again. Lu Ye did not help. He was sitting cross-legged on the top of Modu, which was lying at the outermost edge of the valley. Evil spirits are too dangerous for ordinary people, and the same is true for cultivators, Lu Ye thought to himself, counting the evil spirits I encountered in the spiritual field last time. This is the second time. The evil spirits are too secretive. If I didn't have Xuanyang Yikiju and Sun True Fire, the evil spirits would have no way to deal with me. Otherwise, I would have been tricked by them if I wasn't careful. But my third grandfather also practiced the secret art of Xuanyang Yikiju, and he was also tricked. It should be caused by the huge difference in cultivation, but even so, it cannot be denied that Xuanyang Yikiju has a powerful effect. At least Lu Dinghe did not suffer any harm except falling into deep sleep. If everyone in my Lu family can practice Xuanyang Yikiju or Qinglinju, it will be much better in the face of such a situation. Unfortunately, not everyone can learn it successfully, Lu Ye sighed. Time is too tight, so tight that there is no time to calm down and learn a new technique. After the Lu family settled down, half a day passed, until the sun was about to set. Lu Ye saw a large group of people walking quickly towards the valley. The leader was Li Shaoan, who was a little embarrassed at the moment, not to mention that he was covered in dirt, and his robe was stained with some dark red blood, and it was unknown whether it was his or someone else's. As the Li family gradually approached, after seeing the hideous and terrifying Modu lying outside the valley, everyone stopped at the same time and looked at Modu and Lu Ye, who was sitting cross-legged on top of Modu. Li Shaoan and other practitioners were all shocked after seeing Modu, and Li Shaoan secretly complained that he had never seen such a powerful demon snake when he went to the Lu family before. But this was no time to entangle these things. Li Shaoan quickly stepped forward, cautiously stayed 100 meters away, and shouted to Lu Ye, "Is it Lu Ye, Lu Daoyao, who is ahead?" Lu Ye opened his eyes, looked at Li Shaoan, and stood tall. "It is Lu Ye. The outside world is dangerous." Liu Ye and the clan's spirit beast are guarding the mountain pass. Clan leader Li has come with his people. The journey has been hard. Go in and settle down quickly. As he spoke, the huge body of Modu under him began to move, making way for the road leading to the inside of the valley. In this case, thank you for your protection, fellow Taoist Lu. After all the Li family members entered, Modu moved his body back to his original position and blocked the entrance to the valley again. Lu Dingbo and Lu Dinghe received the Li family members. After a brief greeting, with the help of the Lu family members, the Li family also began to settle down. This busy work lasted until the sun set. After the light of the two families' clan protection formation lit up and completely enveloped the valley, everyone in the valley felt relieved at the solid defense. Finally, it was much safer. Late at night, in a tent closest to the exit of the valley, 8 figures sat cross-legged in it. They were the foundation-building cultivators of the Lu and Li families. Liu Ye sat cross-legged beside Lu Dingbo, still maintaining the wind control technique, listening to everyone's communication. Patriarch Lu, fellow Taoist Dinghe, fellow Taoist Lu Aya, it will be up to our two families to work together and deal with it together, Li Shaoan said with great emotion. Although the journey was not far, the Li family still injured dozens of mortals without cultivation and 6 clansmen with low cultivation. On the other hand, the Lu family, whose number and strength were weaker than theirs, arrived here intact, which made Li Shaoan have to pay more attention. In this situation, Lu Dingbo naturally came forward. Lu Dingbo sighed slightly and said, "This is natural. If you can appear here, you are well prepared. However, late autumn has passed. If winter comes, our situation will probably be more difficult." Lu Dingbo sighed. Li Shaoan nodded and agreed, "Yes, in this case, those monsters must not have stored food for the winter, and under the drive of the big monster, they may become even crazier, so it's okay." The atmosphere was a little stagnant, and at this moment, the oldest old man in the Li family opened his eyes, and a gleam of light flashed in his turbid eyes. This person was the one with the highest cultivation in the Li family, Li Shaoan's father Li Xiaozi, a great cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. This was also the first time that Lu Ya and others saw Li Xiaozi, a Li cultivator in the late stage of foundation building. He first looked at Lu Dingbo, nodded politely, and then fixed his eyes on Lu Ya. "I heard that this fellow Liu is the leader of the younger generation of the Lu family. Now I see that it is true that heroes emerge in youth, and my younger generation of the Li family is not as good as him. No, Mr. Li is too flattering. Liu is just a little more diligent," Lu Dingbo said with a smile on his face. Li Xiaozi nodded, and the satisfaction on his face could hardly be concealed. He asked, "I wonder if Taoist Lu Ya is ready to get married now? There are many young people of the right age in my Li family. Why don't we take this opportunity to get to know each other?" He looked at Lu Dingbo with expectation. When Lu Dingbo heard him say that, his heart moved. On the one hand, when people get old, they like to have more children in the family. On the other hand, he is the head of the family, and the continuation of the family is a very important issue. Moreover, in this case, the Lu and Li families lack a bond to maintain, and marriage is a very suitable bond. It can be said that Li Xiaozi's proposal can well solve the current unfamiliarity and vigilance between the Lu and Li families. Hearing Li Xiaozi's question, Liu was simply at a loss whether to laugh or cry. In his previous life, when he went home during the holidays, someone always arranged blind dates for him. Now that he has traveled through time and space to cultivate immortals, he still can't escape this curse. Lu Dingbo looked at Liu Yang, then at the charming female cultivator in the Li family, and his heart moved again. While we have nothing to do, it would be good for our families to get to know each other. What if one of our younger generations falls in love with each other? Patriarch Liu Ya said helplessly. Ha, don't mind it, my friend Liu Ya. Just think of it as a joke." Hearing this, Li Xiaozi clapped his hands and laughed, and did not continue. Chapter 111 Third Grandpa is in love. Liu Ya thought that this matter was over, but what he didn't expect was that the nightmare would begin in the next 2 days. The Li family was much larger than the Lu family, and naturally there were more people in the family. There were more than 5 women of the same age as him. If the conditions were bolder, at least 20 could be found. So, whether intentionally or unintentionally, all the girls of the Li family passed by him, tall and short, fat and thin, with or without cultivation, even the lolly with a clear voice and a royal sister who was several years older than him. He saw 3 or 4 of them. It seriously affected his practice. So, 3 days later, Lu Ye decisively announced that he would go into seclusion and practiced magic such as the wind-controlling technique day and night. However, this did not affect the enthusiasm of the Lu and Li families. Lu Ye was unwilling, but others did not think so. For example, the young men of the Yang generation were young and energetic, and they met the Li family members every now and then, and they became familiar with each other. Autumn turned to winter, and in a blink of an eye, the Lu family had moved here for more than 40 days. During this period, the two tribes encountered 3 more beast tides, but with a strenuous resistance of 9 foundation-building warriors and more than 60 key training monks, they were perfectly resisted. Facing the beast tides that were more ferocious than the last, the people of the two tribes were glad for their choice at the time. If not, they would have been trampled by the beast tides. On this day, a howling cold wind blew from the west, lead gray dark clouds gathered, and the sky quickly darkened. The cold wind showed its power unscrupulously, and it roared continuously outside the formation. Lu Ye sat cross-legged in his tent, with wisps of breeze entwined around his body. He exhaled a breath of hot air and skillfully opened the skill panel. Name, Lu Yan. Lifespan, 21 277 years old. Realm, first level of foundation building. 14/100, skills, Chongchun Kun Peak. 6225, 50000, skills, fire control technique perfected, golden sword key transformation. 107548, 400000, wind control technique transformation. 97152/200000, wind shock spell peak. 1762, 50,000, water control technique peak. 12541/50000, weapon refining technique first level. 1020, 5,000, magic power, sun true fire, magic power points. 0, since building the foundation, Lu Ye's cultivation has become more diligent. For more than 2 months, his realm has basically maintained a point of experience every 6 days, and now he has accumulated 14 points of experience. At this rate, at most 1 year will pass before he can break through to the second level of foundation building. This speed is already amazing enough. The wind controlling technique steadily increased by about 1,500 experience points per day, and he had already completed nearly half of the journey to the birth of the magical power. He also did not fall behind in the golden sword key, breaking through the 100,000 experience mark, barely completing a quarter of the progress. Today, the power of the golden sword key is close to that of a first order, 9th level spell, and the actual combat effect has been strengthened again. I hope to spend this winter safely. As long as there are 3 more months, when I can give birth to 2 more magical powers, I will definitely be able to lead the family through this disaster. And at the very least, I can migrate safely to the east, Lu Ye thought silently in his heart. As for returning to the previous family residence, after they took the first step of migration, it was impossible to go back. Not to mention the danger there, it is not a very good place for cultivation. It is not close to the mountains or rivers, and the spiritual energy is not sufficient. There are only a few underground caves, which are not worth the current Lu family's nostalgia. The current plan is to withstand the beast tide, wait for the war between those major forces and the monsters, and find an opportunity to survive in the cracks. However, according to their current strength, as long as they don't encounter a 3rd level monster leading the team at the Giant level, there will basically be no big problems. But for some reason, although the beast tides they encountered were more and more fierce, there was no breakthrough in the top combat power. At most, they were 2nd level peak monsters, and there had never been a 3rd level monster. This made Lu Ye worried, fearing that one day their valley would welcome a 3rd level monster king. While thinking about this, Lu Ye suddenly heard footsteps coming from outside, and it seemed that they were looking for him. He stretched out his hand and pointed, and the tent automatically opened, and he saw Lu Ye standing outside the tent. Lu Ye was excited at the moment, and there was a faint sense of wretchedness on his face. Lu Ye was a little confused and didn't understand why he had such an expression. "Second brother, come out quickly." Lu Ye poked his head into the tent and waved to Lu Ye mysteriously. That look simply showed wretchedness to the extreme. Lu Ye asked curiously, "What's the matter?" "I still have to practice." "Hey, second brother, come out quickly. If you come out too late, you won't be able to see it," Lu Ye said, and poked his head out to look around. Seeing this, Lu Ye stood up and walked out of the tent. As soon as he walked out of the tent, he was pulled by Lu Yu and walked out of the tent. What on earth is it that makes you so excited? Lu Yu also became interested at this moment, so he followed Lu Yu and asked. Lu Yu led Lu Yu to walk along the edge of the tent. When he was about to pass a tent, he suddenly made a silence gesture to Lu Yu. Then he carefully poked his head out of the edge of the tent, and quickly retracted it, with a lewd smile on his face. At Lu Yu's signal, Lu Yu also poked his head out to take a look. It would be fine if he didn't look, but he almost popped his eyes out when he saw it. Behind a huge rock far from the tent area, the tall Lu Dinghe and the charming female cultivator of the Li family, who was in the foundation building stage, were sitting side by side with their backs to Lu Yu. They talked and laughed from time to time, and the atmosphere was extremely harmonious. Lu Yu retracted his head, with an incredible look on his face. Is that third grandpa? Lu Yu nodded frantically. When did you find out? I found out a few days ago, and I haven't told anyone. Lu Yu's eyes were burning with gossip, and he lowered his voice and said, I also saw third grandpa and that senior. Lu Yu then asked, what happened between third grandpa and that senior? Lu Yu paused for a moment, and then said excitedly, they held hands, holding hands. Lu Yu really didn't expect that third grandpa, who had been single for 60 years, actually had this ability to seduce girls. But he changed his mind and thought that this was indeed a good thing. Third grandpa had been devoting himself to the family before, and now that he has built his foundation, he has met a female cultivator who is also in the foundation building stage. If the two can become Taoist companions and walk hand in hand in the future, it would not be a bad thing. Moreover, for the current Lu and Li clans, how can the union of key training juniors compare to the significance of the marriage of foundation building cultivators? However, it depends on the reaction of the Li family. After all, a foundation building cultivator is not something that can be easily let go. However, Lu Yu thinks that this should not be a big problem. First of all, the two clans are together, and there is no problem of the lack of family combat power after the marriage. There are still 9 foundation building combat forces. Secondly, after the foundation is established, they have their own autonomy. If the other party agrees, the Li family will never forcefully stop it, otherwise it will cause resentment in the other party, and it will not be worth the loss. But no matter what, Lu Yu is happy for the third grandfather to take this step. Chapter 112 Forced to fight the beast tide. 3 days passed in a flash, and Lu Yu still stayed in his tent, practicing every day. Occasionally, when he felt tired, he would watch third grandpa fall in love with Lu Yu to relieve his mood. Now the two tribes are very familiar with each other, and there is no sense of distance between them when they just moved in. They get along very well, and occasionally there are some small conflicts, which are quickly eliminated. Lu Yu had just finished the first stage of practice when he heard the continuous roar of bells coming from outside. With the ringing of the bells, the mortals who were originally doing their work in an orderly manner quickly put down their work and ran towards the depths of the valley in skill and panic. All the cultivators quickly rushed to the outermost part of the valley. Here it comes again. Here it comes again, the monster is coming again. Lu Yu quickly rushed out of the tent, stepped into the air, and flew out of the valley. The valley was not big. In just a few breaths, Lu Yu appeared at the edge of the tribe protection formation and stood shoulder to shoulder with Lu Dingbo and others. Without saying a word, Lu Yu followed the crowd's gaze and looked into the distance. He saw a black line rushing towards their valley quickly, as mighty and majestic as a huge wave. His face was solemn. The pressure brought by the beast tide this time was stronger than the previous ones, and it almost condensed into substance. There are people in front of the beast tide. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, and pointed to the front of the beast tide. Lu Yu looked in the direction of the person's finger, and indeed saw that at the forefront of the beast tide, there were 5 flying boats fleeing frantically. But seeing the dim spiritual light on the flying boats, they must not be able to hold on for much longer. Li Shoren, who is in the early stage of foundation building, looked at it, uttered a light sigh, licked his lips and said, there are actually flying boats. It seems that those who are being hunted must be wealthy. They may be from big families and big sects. I just hope that after they die in the beast tide, they can leave 2 intact flying boats. The words were plain, but the cold-blooded indifference revealed in them did not make anyone feel that there was anything wrong. Lu Yu did not think there was any problem with such a ferocious beast tide, not to mention that he had no ability. Even if he had the ability, there was no reason to save people. The clan protection formation has a concealment effect. After Li Shoren finished speaking, The Lu and Li families all looked through the formation coldly at the beast tide not far away, hoping that the beast tide would not find them here. My fellow disciples, there is a valley ahead. We will rely on that valley to fight these beasts to the death. On the front flying boat, a male monk in a black standard robe pointed at the valley where Lu Ya and his group were, with a fierce look on his face, and shouted loudly at the fellow disciples who were also wearing standard robes behind him. The rest of the people heard it, all with despair on their faces, but after just a moment, someone gritted his teeth and said, "Listen to the eldest brother, let's fight these beasts. Yes, we can't run away anyway, fight them, fight." Seeing that all the fellow disciples were like this, the monk called the eldest brother made a hand gesture. And the flying boat's flight trajectory slightly deviated, and then shot towards the valley. "Oh no, they are coming towards us. Have they discovered us?" a 9th level key training cultivator of the Li clan exclaimed. Everyone looked grim. Although they had already prepared to fight against the beast tide, they still had a fluke in their hearts, hoping that after these people died, the beast tide would change direction. Unexpectedly, they were brought here by these people. Everyone, prepare to fight. Don't be careless. As the only late-stage foundation-building cultivator of the two clans, Li Ziazi took the initiative to give orders. How should those cultivators respond? Someone asked. Li Ziazi paused for a moment, and then said, "If they are cultivators from the demon sect, attack them together. If they are cultivators from the righteous sect, ignore them and concentrate on resisting the monsters." As the voice fell, the flying boat and the beast tide were getting closer and closer. "Big brother, there is a formation guard in the valley ahead. There must be someone in it." On the front flying boat, a cultivator looked at the male cultivator in the front and spoke in surprise. "There are people." Zhao Cheng, who was called the eldest senior brother, was delighted at first, and then he shouted loudly towards the valley, "I am Zhao Cheng from Amaterasu Valley. Unfortunately, I and my fellow disciples were driven here by monsters. I hope that fellow Daoists in the valley can help us. Our Amaterasu Valley will be grateful." Someone in the formation heard the shouting and asked the people around him in a low voice, "The cultivators of Amaterasu Valley are considered to be a righteous sect. Should we save them?" "Save? What the hell?" Lu Linghe snorted coldly. "So what if they are a righteous sect? Is this considered asking for help? And you're still grateful? Can we eat this gratitude? There is no sincerity at all, and we risk our lives to save them. Are you an idiot?" The man from the Li family was scolded and was about to fight back, but he was glared at by Lu Linghe and was hit by his words. Knowing that he was right, he dared not say anything more. After Zhao Cheng finished shouting, he saw that there was no movement inside the valley. A trace of vicious anger flashed in his eyes, and then he shouted again, "We are willing to offer 5,000 medium-grade spirit stones, and hope that fellow Daoists can lend a hand." 5,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Most of the cultivators in the formation took a breath of cold air. It was really generous. They turned their heads to look at Li Ziazi, waiting for his decision. Li Ziazi stroked his beard, pondered for a few breaths, and said, "Well, don't let them in. Let them resist the monsters outside the formation, and we can resist the monsters inside as usual." Lu Yu couldn't help but nodded. The old ones are still the best, whether it is the third grandfather or the late foundation building of the Li family. This approach not only shows their attitude, but also avoids facing greater risks. Li Shao stepped out of the formation, used up his magic power, and shouted to the flying boat, "Dao from Amaterasu Valley, the situation is critical. It is too late to close the formation and then open it again. You will defend the left side of the formation, and we will resist the monsters on the right side." After that, he retreated back into the formation. Zhao Cheng was stunned for a moment when he saw him come out and go in again. His eyes became more gloomy, but he still bowed and said, "Thank you so much. I hope you can help us. I will definitely give you the spiritual stones later. Prepare for battle." The 5 flying boats of Amaterasu Valley have all arrived outside the formation. A total of 54 people jumped off the flying boats, including 7 foundation-building monks and 47 key training monks. They formed a formation with their backs against a formation and faced the monsters. Inside the formation, looking at the huge formation of Amaterasu Valley, many people secretly felt lucky that they didn't let them in at that time. The beast tide rushed over, and the war instantly entered a white-hot stage. The monks of Amaterasu Valley formed a large formation, like a stubborn stone in a turbulent river, crushing all the waves. With the 2 formations superimposed, the defensive ability is amazing. The monks of the two tribes rely on the fact that they can enter and exit the formation at will. They often prepare spells and go out to fight for a while. When the magic power cannot be recovered in time, they retreat to the formation and take a breath. Luya stood outside the formation, killing the monsters with only a golden sword, constantly harvesting the lives of monsters, and the light on the Jushao Pearl almost never stopped. Everyone, remember to vote. Liho feels that it is almost cold. Chapter 113, Horrible Monster. A scream came from the great formation of Amaterasu Valley. Luya took a quick glance and saw a trace of blood on the monsters, which disappeared without a trace. Under the endless tide of beasts, even if the great formation of Amaterasu Valley was strong and exquisite, casualties were inevitable. On the other hand, because of the protection of the double great formation and the monks of Amaterasu Valley sharing some of the firepower, there were no deaths in the Lu and Li families. Only a few people were injured, but they still had the strength to fight. As time went by, the monsters became stronger and stronger. Even Luya's golden sword energy could not kill them with one strike. It often took 2 or 3 strikes to kill a monster. This forced him to expose some of his strength. He raised a top-grade magic weapon longsword in his hand and took 2 approaches at the same time, which significantly improved his efficiency. Puff! Luya killed a wolf monster that had just entered the 2nd level with a sword, threw it behind him, and killed the monsters again. As long as he didn't use the sun's true fire, with his peak level Chong Chunguang, his mana recovery speed was just enough to keep up. Therefore, he had a strong protective aura on his body, and he rushed madly among the monsters without worrying about running out of mana. However, Luya often only rushed for a while, and then retreated to the formation to recover, trying not to be too different from others. He has been like this during this period of time. Who asked that there are outsiders like Li here? He would hide his shortcomings if he could. This was also something that was discussed before the relocation, and all the Lu clan members kept it in mind. When Luya entered the formation to rest again, the monks of the 2 clans finally suffered casualties. A key training monk was bitten in the thigh, and only had time to let out a scream, and then he was overwhelmed by the monster. There was no time to grieve, and everyone worked harder to kill the monsters, and the bodies of the dead monsters piled up higher and higher. Roar! A peak 2nd level elephant monster appeared in front of everyone. It was 10 meters tall, covered with elephant skin like iron armor. Its long trunk was like a magic whip, tearing out gusts of wind. Wherever it passed, it was like an earthquake. As soon as it appeared, all the monsters consciously made way for it. Some of the slower ones were rolled up by the long trunk, and the next moment they appeared in the mouth of the elephant monster and were swallowed whole by it. The bright red blood flowed down the corners of the elephant monster's mouth, as if it was raining blood. It's the peak 2nd level monster, the armored giant demon elephant, someone in Amaterasu Valley exclaimed, and Zhao Cheng looked ugly. It was this invulnerable demon elephant that chased them here, otherwise they would have escaped long ago. Why would they fight here? As soon as the armored giant demon elephant appeared, it rushed towards the formation of Amaterasu Valley and others with heavy steps. The violent demonic power formed a blood-red demonic aura behind it, as if it was a mad demon rushing out of hell. The people of Amaterasu Valley were terrified, and Zhao Cheng shouted angrily, "Follow me to meet the enemy." As soon as his voice fell, the whole formation burst into dazzling light, and then a giant sword with shining light formed above the formation, and was controlled by Zhao Cheng to slash down at the armored giant demon elephant. Luya returned to the clan protection formation the moment the armored giant demon elephant appeared. Not only him, but also the other cultivators did the same. This is why the armored giant demon elephant targeted the cultivators of Amaterasu Valley at the first time. Seeing the attack from Amaterasu Valley, everyone in the clan protection formation was shocked. They didn't expect that these sect cultivators who were chased like stray dogs could still burst out such a terrifying attack. Judging from its power, it is probably beyond the limit of the power that can be exerted by the foundation building. I am afraid that the golden elixir cultivators have to avoid its edge. This is the role of the formation. In the blink of an eye, the giant sword collided with the trunk of the iron-clad giant demon elephant. Astonishing spiritual energy fluctuations erupted between the two, and the fluctuations turned into violent wind, blowing away everything around. Even the protective formations of the 2 tribes were bombarded and flickered frequently, almost breaking. 2 breaths later, the fluctuations disappeared, and the giant sword broke into a stream of light and fell into the formation. A hideous wound appeared on the trunk of the iron-clad giant demon elephant, almost cutting off its long trunk. Such an injury made it even more crazy. Its two front legs, like pillars of heaven, were raised, and its upper body was raised high. It only relied on its two hind legs to support its heavy body. The iron-clad giant demon elephant let out an extremely angry and earth-shattering roar, like the sky falling, and its front legs stomped heavily towards the Amaterasu Valley formation. "Stop it!" Zhao Cheng, bleeding from his mouth and nose, looked up at the falling giant leg, squeezed his own mana to the limit, and injected all of it into the formation. Boom! The whole valley trembled for 3 full breaths before gradually calming down. The great formation of Amaterasu Valley was crushed by the armored giant demon elephant. The formation backfired, killing more than 10 cultivators of Amaterasu Valley on the spot. The rest of them fell here and there, injured and almost losing their combat capability. Inside the formation, the cultivators of the two clans looked at the armored giant demon elephant that looked like an ancient god and demon, and couldn't help swallowing their saliva, feeling panic in their hearts. Such a terrifying giant monster, even Amaterasu Valley couldn't stop it. Can their small cultivation family really survive this disaster? After crushing the great formation of Amaterasu Valley, the armored giant demon elephant raised its head to the sky and let out a long hiss, then looked down at the cultivators of Amaterasu Valley, with cruel murderous intent in its eyes. "Big brother, save me, I don't want to die, save me." The elephant's trunk rolled, and 4 cultivators of the 10th level of key training let out a miserable howl, and then they were swallowed into the mouth of the armored giant demon elephant, chewed and swallowed alive. Zhao Cheng kicked his legs wildly and retreated madly, trying to get away from this terrifying monster. One by one, his fellow disciples disappeared into the elephant's mouth, and the others became even more frightened. He turned his head to look at the formation behind him, and shouted frantically, "Fellow Daoists, please save us. I have spiritual stones. I have spiritual stones." As he said that, he threw the storage bag, and a large number of spiritual stones fell from the storage bag. In the blink of an eye, they piled up into a small hill next to the formation. Lu Ye and other foundation builders looked grim. They were originally praying that this terrifying monster would kill everyone in Xiansao Valley and leave. In this way, the spiritual energy of the spiritual stones would definitely attract it. Some key training monks looked at the shining spiritual stones and couldn't help swallowing their saliva, their eyes burning. "Patriarch Lu, what do you say we should do?" Li Xiaozi turned his head to look at Lu Dingbo and asked. Lu Dingbo held his magic sword tightly and said with difficulty, "Mr. Li, this is no longer for you and me to decide. You have seen the cultivators of Amaterasu Valley outside. We are definitely not opponents. But even such a powerful cultivator of Amaterasu Valley was defeated by this demon elephant. We can only see whether this demon elephant will leave or stay. If it stays, we can only fight desperately. If it leaves, we can save our lives. It can only be like this." Li Xiaozi sighed. Seeing that the formation did not react, the resentment in Zhao Cheng's eyes almost turned into substance. He looked at the iron armor giant demon elephant that was getting closer and closer, took out 2 jade bottles from the storage bag, pulled out the corks directly, and shouted wildly, "Foundation building pill. I have foundation building pill. Save me and Goen." The cultivators of the 2 tribes were shocked, and their eyes were all focused on the jade bottle in Zhao Cheng's hand. A clear pill fragrance came through the formation, which made people feel refreshed. Lu Ye secretly said that it was bad. The next moment, something strange happened. Everyone, remember to vote, give the host some motivation, or comment and feedback. I've been a bit busy at work recently, I'll start updating after I'm done. Chapter 114 Fire. A Li family cultivator who had reached the 10th level of key training could not help but reach out his hand to the formation and grab the foundation building pill that was within reach. "Stop, Xiaoxian, you can't." 2 angry shouts rang out one after another. After Lu Ya's angry shout, Li Xiao's roar rang out at the same time. But it was too late. The moment he reached out to take it, the iron-armored giant demon elephant had been attracted by the medicinal fragrance of the foundation building pill, and its pair of scarlet elephant eyes looked in the direction of the clan protection formation. So, the moment Li Xiaoxian grabbed the foundation building pill, he was already exposed to the iron-armored giant demon elephant's eyes. Zhao Cheng's face flushed, and he slapped the ground with all his strength and dodged to the side, completely exposing Li Xiaoxian's arm and the foundation building pill in his hand to the iron-armored giant demon elephant's vision. Swish, a flash of knife light passed by, and Li Shaoxiang's hand that stretched out the formation was cut off at the root. Lu Ye ignored Li Shaoxiang's screams and threw his arm towards Zhao Cheng. Broken Wall chased after Zhao Cheng with blood and foundation building pills, and everyone in the clan protection formation looked grim. If you want to die, go by yourself, don't harm the others present. Lu Ye looked at Li Shaoxiang, who was still covering his broken arm and howling, and spoke mercilessly. Dao Lu Ye, even if Shaoxiang was wrong, isn't this too much? Li Shaoxiang's face was livid, and he hated Li Shaoxiang's incompetence and was angry at Lu Ye's dominance. The longsword in Lu Ye's hand made a clanging sound, and he pointed at Li Shaoxiang and said, "Too much?" Just a foundation building pill made him lose his wits, and he didn't care about the lives of more than 500 people of his clan and allies. Do you think this is too much? Clan leader Li, why don't you look outside before talking? Hearing this, Li Shaoxiang turned his head to look outside the formation, and his heart choked. Zhao Cheng, who had escaped, was lying on the side, his life or death unknown. However, the broken arm thrown by Lu Ye appeared in front of their formation again, tightly attached to the formation. One of the foundation building pills had fallen from the jade bottle, emitting a bright light that was breathtaking. The armored giant demon elephant let out a long hiss and took big steps towards the direction of the foundation building pill. As it walked, it was bound to touch the clan protection formation, and it would definitely notice the existence of the clan protection formation. Judging from its irrational behavior, it would definitely attack the clan protection formation. Get ready for the fight. This time it was my fault that the Li family failed to discipline us, and I made the Lu family allies laugh at me. Li Ziazi sighed in a low voice, and said firmly, in order to make up for my mistakes, I will lead the Li family to build the foundation to stop this monster, and the Lu family will support us. How about that? Lu Dingbo bowed his hands and said, Old Li, you are serious. Our two families are allies in attack and defense, so we should advance and retreat together. Boom. The two-layer protective formation made a shocking sound, and the iron-armored giant demon elephant had begun to attack the formation. Li Ziazi drew out a long sword with cold light, and his whole body was full of magic power. He said loudly, all foundation builders listen to my orders. After 3 breaths, close the protective formation and follow me to stop the iron-armored giant demon elephant. Yes, Lu Ye, summon Modu, we need its help, Lu Dingbo said loudly to Lu Ye. Lu Ye nodded. As early as when the iron-armored giant demon elephant rushed over, he had already contacted Modu. At this moment, Modu was ready to go and was ready to fight desperately. When the iron-armored giant demon elephant retreated again and prepared to hit the clan protection formation, the clan protection formation suddenly dissipated, and a total of 8 foundation building monks were all exposed to its eyes. Seeing the human monks, the murderous intent in the iron-armored giant demon elephant's eyes boiled again. It roared and swung its thick and long trunk, roaring and whipping at the few people. Having seen its horror, the foundation building monks of both tribes flew around and avoided the trunk's whip. The iron-armored giant demon elephant's body is strong and powerful, but its speed is slightly slow. The monks of Amaterasu Valley were unable to move because of the formation, so it seized the opportunity and defeated them in one fell swoop. However, they did not have such concerns and relied on their flexible body movements to quickly dodge. If it had not been bombarding the clan protection formation, perhaps they would not have had to face this terrifying monster. Lead it away from the valley and restart the clan protection formation. Lu Ye's golden sword energy flew and shouted to the others. Good idea. Everyone's eyes lit up, realizing that this was a feasible method. So they turned around and flew out of the valley. Seeing this, the ironclad giant demon elephant also roared and stepped forward, turned around, and rushed out. Previously, there was a threat from the ironclad giant demon elephant. At this moment, Lu Ye and others rushed out, but were stopped by numerous monsters. They had no choice but to fly into the sky, resisting the monsters that continued to attack them, and constantly avoiding the attacks of the ironclad giant demon elephant. Seeing that there were more and more monsters in front of him, and the ironclad giant demon elephant behind him was getting closer and closer, Li Shaoxiang made a gesture with his hands, his face flushed, and he shouted in vain. Evil beast, die! A yellowish earth seal flew out from in front of him, and it grew in the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge seal like a small mountain, carrying a yellowish earth spiritual light, and smashed down on the head of the ironclad giant demon elephant. Boom! The spiritual energy impact visible to the naked eye spread, and the iron-clad giant demon elephant's footsteps paused slightly. Li Shao's yellowish earth seal flew into the sky like a baseball being hit. Li Shao's face was as pale as gold paper. He used all his strength to control the flying magic weapon, but he was powerless to fight again. Liu looked at the monsters rushing in like a tide, and his heart trembled. He no longer held back. With a thud, the powerful magic power drove the sun's true fire, and in the blink of an eye, a sea of fire formed in front of him, burning all the monsters that rushed up to ashes. "I'll clear the way in front, and you lure out the iron-armored giant demon elephant." He turned his head and roared. Then stepped in the sea of fire and rushed towards the endless monsters in front. What kind of fire is this? It's so terrifying. The Li family looked at the fire controlled by Liu Ya in the front, and the pressure was greatly reduced. They couldn't help but think. Liu was like the master of fire, trying his best to control the golden sun's true fire, which was extremely strong and yang. Wherever the sea of fire went, the monsters turned into ashes. This extreme fire and extreme destruction made the people behind him and the monsters facing the fire in front of him feel terrified. Gudong, Li Yangsu, the only female foundation building cultivator in the two tribes, looked at Liu Yang, who was showing his divine power, and her heart trembled slightly. Then she cast her big watery eyes at Lu Dinghe, as if asking him, "Is this what you call an ordinary genius?" Facing the gaze of his sweetheart, Lu Dinghe shook his head at a loss, and then attacked the incoming monsters again. Liu was very fast, and in a blink of an eye he had advanced more than 100 feet and had already left the valley. Outside the valley, the end of the monster tide was already in his eyes. "Quick, there are not many monsters, lead them out, I can't hold on any longer," Liu Ya shouted loudly. Although the sun true fire in his hands still burned everything, its power had decreased compared to before. When everyone heard this, Lu Dingbo waved his sword and rushed to Liu Ya's side, killing monsters with him to relieve his pressure. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 115 Lu's Style. Li Xiaozi relied on his late foundation building cultivation to harass the armored giant demon elephant. Although his attacks could not break through its defense, they successfully attracted its attention. "You guys quickly clean up the rest of the monsters, I'll stop it for now," he said quickly while maneuvering. The others nodded. After the other 5 foundation building masters joined, the pressure on Liu Ya and Lu Dingbo suddenly decreased, and the casualties of the monsters increased rapidly. When the casualties reached half, the monster group finally broke and fled. Looking at the monsters that were fleeing quickly, Liu Ya felt that he had less than 30% of his magic power left, and he exhaled heavily. Next, he just had to deal with this armored giant demon elephant with muscles growing to its brain. The 8 foundation building masters did not confront it head-on, but always kept a sufficient distance from it, constantly consuming its physical strength and demon power. After half an hour, the armored giant demon elephant finally showed signs of exhaustion, with tiny scars all over its body, and the already injured elephant trunk was almost broken into 2 pieces, with only a layer of skin and flesh connecting them. "Ang!" The armored giant demon elephant roared, and then charged towards the wild with its head down. Although it had no reason, facing the threat of death, it still chose the most correct approach. Everyone looked at the huge back of the armored giant demon elephant running away madly, and the huge stone hanging in their hearts was finally put down. Everyone flew towards the valley. Li Xiaozi looked at Liu Ya and bowed his hands to thank him. "Thanks to fellow Taoist Liu Ya today, otherwise our 2 tribes would definitely be in danger." Liu Ya just nodded and did not say anything. Instead, he accelerated and flew towards the left side of the clan protection formation. There were more than a dozen Amaterasu Valley monks lying on the ground whose lives and deaths were unknown, including the male cultivator who used the foundation building pill to divert the disaster of the armored giant demon elephant to the east. It was only 100 feet, but in the blink of an eye, when the group landed, the light of the clan protection formation had been relit. Outside the formation, the monks of Amaterasu Valley were still lying on the ground, and a large number of spirit stones were scattered outside the formation. Even the 2 foundation building pills were still in place, and no one touched them. Liu Ya glanced at Li, not expecting that their clansmen could actually hold back. After landing, Liu Ya went straight to the eldest brother of Amaterasu Valley. He looked at the other party lying on the ground, seemingly motionless. Covering himself with a protective aura, Liu Ya pointed with one hand, and used the wind control technique to lift him up. After confirming again and again, seeing that he was still not awake, Liu Ya quickly used his magic power to seal his Danshan, and then follow the same method to seal the remaining few living Amaterasu Valley monks. Deo Ayalu, they are monks of Amaterasu Valley, you do this. Li Shao looked at Lu Ya's actions and couldn't help but speak, but after meeting Lu Ya's cold eyes, he immediately shut up. Lu Ya used the object control technique to lift several people up. Lu Dingbo opened the formation, and then Lu Ya took the lead to walk into it. In this regard, Lu's style was surprisingly consistent with Lu Ya. As for the spirit stones and foundation building pills, they didn't even look at them, so naturally someone would take care of them. After a while, in the meeting hall of the two clans, 8 foundation builders sat down, and 6 cultivators from Amaterasu Valley lay on the ground. Li Ziazi looked at Lu Dingbo and said, "Brother Lu, let's leave the next matter to you. We, the Li family, will just watch." So Lu Dinghe walked forward in the eyes of everyone and woke up the cultivator from Amaterasu Valley. Zhao Cheng woke up, his eyes were slightly confused at first, and then he subconsciously used his magic power, and then he showed pain on his face and howled miserably. "How dare you treat us cultivators from Amaterasu Valley like this?" Zhao Cheng endured the severe pain from his danshan, gritted his teeth and looked at the people sitting there. Lu Dinghe opened and retracted his 5 fingers several times, and then looked at the people on the ground and said, "Next, I'll ask you a question. Name." Zhao Cheng was silent. Lu Dinghe punched down without hesitation, and the force and accuracy were very well controlled, only smashing his little finger into pieces. Crack! Zhao Cheng gritted his teeth and didn't let himself scream. "You should know that there are several people around you. We don't have to ask you." Lu Dinghe paused and asked again, "Name." Zhao Cheng. "Cultivation, 8th level of foundation building. Why were you chased by monsters?" Zhao Cheng paused, then answered, "I took all my junior brothers and sisters to the mountain gate for training, and accidentally encountered a wave of monsters, and were chased all the way here." Bang! Lu Dinghe punched down again. "Tell the truth." Zhao Cheng closed his eyes tightly, blocking the anger and resentment that was about to burst out of his eyes, and said, "The mountain gate of Amaterasu Valley was broken, and we fled here." As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. As far as I know, Amaterasu of Amaterasu Valley is a famous giant in Tenrun. Even with such strength, it was broken by monsters. Did Amaterasu fall? Li Shaoan couldn't help but ask. "I don't know. We rushed out of the mountain gate and rushed all the way here. We didn't have the chance to contact the sect," Zhao Cheng replied, and then immediately said, "Zhao Cheng thanks all the Taoist friends for saving my life. I am willing to offer spiritual stones and elixirs as a reward. We have already taken out 5,000 spiritual stones and 2 foundation building pills. What kind of wealth can we have?" A small voice sounded in the crowd. The voice was not loud, but it was loud enough for everyone present to hear. Zhao Cheng heard it and immediately explained, "Dao Yao, after we broke through the siege, we also took a lot of supplies from the sect for the future. As long as you let me go, I will take you to the treasure land and hand over all the wealth of the sect to you." As the voice fell, a heavy breathing sound suddenly sounded in the hall. Zhao Cheng's heart was filled with murderous intent. As long as they let him go or went to look for wealth, the backup they left behind would be enough to kill everyone present 3 times. "One last question." Lu Ya leaned forward, looked into Zhao Cheng's eyes, and slowly said, "Why did you throw the foundation building pill into our formation? You should know what that means." Zhao Cheng showed a hint of bitterness and said, "Dao Yao, I was helpless. It was an instinctive reaction to survive. If there were other options, I would never do such a thing. Please understand." "Understand?" Lu Ya nodded, relieved. Seeing this, Zhao Cheng had a faint sneer on his face. He didn't expect this cultivator to be so easy to fool. When he escapes, he must kill all these casual cultivators. Hiss. A trace of pain suddenly came from his neck. Zhao Cheng was stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to look down, he saw the world spinning, and the last scene he saw was a headless body. Why is it so familiar? Then he fell into eternal darkness. "Dao Ayalu," the Li family exclaimed, looking at Lu Ya who had put his sword back into the sheath in shock. Lu Ya did not make any explanation. He woke up the people present one by one to check their statements, and then killed them one by one. The Li family members wanted to say something but hesitated, and finally said nothing. "Everyone, remember to vote. Li Hua is very grateful. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Wandering Cultivator. After Lu Ya finished all this, Li Ziaozi thought for a long time before he asked, Daoyalu, don't you want the supplies from Amaterasu Valley at all? Of course I do, Lu Ya said coldly, revealing a different kind of clarity, but it depends on whether you have the life to take it. Li Ziaozi's breath was choked, and his mind turned rapidly. After thinking through the interests involved, cold sweat oozed from his back. It was the old man who was blinded by wealth. I would like to thank all the Daoists of the Lu family. After a pause, he continued, let Li Shaoan and others do the follow-up. This is the united front. After seeing what Lu Ya and others did, Li Ziaozi understood that if this kind of thing was not handled properly, the two clans would most likely go their separate ways, and if things went wrong, they would even fight to prevent the news from leaking out. And with the combat power shown by Lu Ya, he estimated that even he, who was in the late stage of foundation building, was not very sure that he could stop or kill him. Not to mention that the other party also had a second-level advanced clan guardian spirit beast. In this case, it is better to simply join in and become grasshoppers on the same rope. There are still smart people in the Li family. Lu Ya and Lu Dingbo looked at each other, and then looked at Li Ziaozi who was ashamed, and thought to themselves. If Li Ziaozi did not say this, then they, the Lu family, would have to evaluate whether it was necessary to continue to cooperate with the Li family. But once things developed to this point, this valley is definitely not for them to stay. Now it seems that they, the Lu family, can continue to live here. Li Ziaozi signaled the two foundation builders to finish up, and he took a storage bag from Li Shaoan and handed it to Lu Dingbo. Brother Lu, there is a foundation building pill, 3 intact flying boats, and 4,831 medium-grade spirit stones. After cleaning up the battlefield just now, according to the statistics, you and I will each get half, Li Ziaozi added. The previous incident was caused by my Li family's lack of discipline. One of the flying boats will be taken as an apology. Lu Dingbo took the storage bag and said a few humble words before accepting the storage bag. Seeing that he didn't need to be here for the rest of the matter, Lu Yu turned around and left the tent and walked back to his own tent. As soon as he entered the tent, he took out the longevity beads. At this moment, the black and white beads were emitting a strong light. He felt it for a moment, and his eyes showed joy. After this unscrupulous killing, the longevity beads, which originally had a lifespan of only about 80 years, have now broken through the 300-year mark, and have already completed 1/3 of the lifespan of 1,000 years. The reason why Lu Yu killed Zhao Cheng and others personally was because the lifespan gained by killing monsters was less than 1/5 of that of humans. This is why Lu Yu thinks that this Jusho pearl is harmful to the harmony of nature. It encourages monks to kill their own kind in order to grow. However, if the amount is enough, the Jusho pearl can be filled up. Lu Yu estimates that if there are more than 10 or 20 beast tides of this magnitude, he can fill up the Jusho pearl. But before that, he may have been buried in the sea of beasts. After putting away the Jusho pearl, Lu Ya pointed his finger. And a golden sword energy with deliberately controlled power flew out of his hand, shooting a small finger hole on the ground. The finger hole was round and 1 foot deep. Lu Ya's eyes were deep, and he pointed his finger again. This time he clearly saw that the originally white golden sword energy was now attached with a thin layer of blood like red. It was this touch of red that made his golden sword energy have such amazing penetrating power. He opened the skill panel and looked at the golden sword energy. The experience of golden sword key has reached transformation. 150002/400000. After a little thought, he guessed that the changes of golden sword key were related to the experience value. I don't know what my golden sword key will look like when it finally forms a magical power, Lu Ya thought to himself, and then took out a special jade slip to record the changes of golden sword key bit by bit. This will serve as a guide for the younger generation of the family to practice in the future. Rumble. The sky and the earth were dark, the fields were dim, and there were lightning and thunder in the heavy dark clouds. In the heavy rain, Lu Ya sat cross-legged on top of Modu. The raindrops penetrated the clan protection formation and fell on his body. The lightning occasionally reflected his calm face. Even in such a heavy rain, his whole body was still dry, and even his hair was not wet. Under him, Modu's huge snake pupil occasionally looked at Lu Ya, and then carefully dispersed the rain to prevent it from affecting Lu Ya. 10 days had passed since the last beast tide, and this sudden winter rain also heralded the official arrival of the real cold winter. All this had no effect on Lu Yan, nor on the lives of the Lu and Li tribes in the clan protection formation. The rainstorm lasted for 2 full days, and it was not until the 3rd day that the dark clouds gradually retreated. After that, the bone-chilling wind blew, and the rain on the ground quickly froze into ice, making a creaking sound when stepped on. "Second brother, the clan leader asked you to go to the meeting tent." Lu Jing's crisp voice sounded outside the tent. Lu Yu opened his eyes, got up and went out, nodded to Lu Jing, and then rushed to the meeting tent. A few minutes later, Lu Yao lifted the tarpaulin that served as the door and walked into the tent. He looked up and saw that in addition to the 2 tribes' foundation-building cultivators who had long been familiar with him, there were also 2 ragged and scarred key training monks in the tent. At this moment, the 2 of them were looking around with worried eyes, wanting to say something but stopping. After Lu Ya sat down, Lu Dingbo asked, "Don't be afraid, fellow Taoists. I invited you here because we have been seeking refuge for a long time and don't know much about the world. So I want to ask you where you are from, where you are going, and what the outside world is like." After Lu Dingbo finished speaking, Li Yangsu personally brought 2 cups of steaming hot spiritual tea and placed them in front of the 2. The 2 hurriedly took it and kept thanking him. After drinking a sip of hot tea, it seemed as if their nervous hearts were also ironed and smoothed. One of them looked at the people in the room, and whispered slowly, to reply to the seniors, "We are from a gathering place for independent cultivators outside Wuhu City. My name is Han Qi, and this is my team at Jiangkaidun. As for why we ended up here, it's because Wuhu City was broken." Han Qi paused, his eyes full of panic and fear. After a long while, he continued, "It was broken by 5 third-level demon kings with 100,000 demon beasts. Wuhu Valley suffered heavy casualties, and those of us who depended on Wuhu City were chased like stray dogs by the monsters. Originally, there were more than 30 of us on our way here, but when we got here, there were only 2 of us left." Alice Lu Dingbo sighed, and then said, "As far as I know, there's Amaterasu City in a mountain range between Wuhu City and here. How did you 2 cross that mountain range? The H1N1 flu is serious recently, so everyone should remember to take precautions." Chapter 117 Where is the way forward? Han Qi did not speak, but Jiang Kaidun continued to reply, "It can be said that this disaster is destined for us. We originally thought that we could escape to Amaterasu City where Amaterasu Valley is located, and we could also escape with our lives, but we did not expect that after escaping to Amaterasu City, the beast tide followed closely. After Amaterasu City was broken, we followed the crowd and fought hard to escape, so we had to flee east again." Li Shaoan said, "Isn't there a mountain range in the east? I remember there is a demon king in it." "That's right." Han Qi felt much more at ease at this moment. "At that time, we were also worried, fearing that we would be caught by demon beasts in the mountains, but along the way, the mountains were empty. We guessed that the demon beasts had formed a beast tide and went out, so we escaped by chance. After that, we were more careful along the way, and finally we were rescued by all the seniors." After Han Qi finished speaking, he looked at everyone present with great gratitude. As for how grateful he was in his heart, that is another matter. After Han Qi finished speaking, everyone in the tent fell silent. After a few breaths, Lu Ya asked, "If it is as you said, the beast tide is advancing from west to east at this moment." Han Qi and Jiang Kaidun nodded at the same time. Han Qi said, "There were 5 demon kings attacking Wuhu City, but there were already 7 demon kings when we arrived at Amaterasu City. And we had just arrived at Amaterasu City not long before the beast tide came over. It is indeed advancing eastward," Jiang Kaidun added, "and after we crossed the mountains, we also saw many demon tribe teams running into the mountains from a distance, and we also met some casual cultivators who were fleeing for their lives. They said that the beast tide is about to cross the mountains and head towards this side." When Jiang Kaidun finished speaking, the faces of the cultivators of the 2 tribes were ugly. If what the 2 said was true, it meant that their location was no longer safe. The previous beast tide did not have demon king level monsters. Even if there were second level peak monsters, their 8 foundation building cultivators plus the second level advanced Modu, with the protection of the tribe formation, could barely resist. But once a demon king appears, they have no way to deal with it. In front of a golden elixir level demon beast, all their efforts are in vain. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your hard work along the way. Please take a rest in the clan, Lu Dingbo said with a bow. The news brought by these two people is too critical. If it weren't for Li Shaozhen, the foundation building master of the Li family, who went out and saved the two people on a whim, they might not realize it until the Demon King came. If they really waited until that time, they could basically give up the resistance. After the two walked out of the tent, the atmosphere in the tent was extremely solemn. After a long time, Lu Dingbo said in a deep voice, "Everyone, if the situation is true, we have to consider a way out. I think what they said can be believed, but not completely believed." An abrupt voice sounded. Lu Yu turned his head and saw Li Shaozhen's face that was bright and dark in the light. Li Shaozhen, one of the 5 foundation building masters of the Li family, has a foundation building level of the 2nd level. He usually has some conflicts with the Lu family. But he is also sensible. These two Honki were also brought back by him. Lu Yu didn't expect that he would be the first to express his opinion. He just continued to say, 2 cultivators in the late stage of key training were able to go all the way from Wuhu City to Amaterasu City, and then cross the mountains where the Demon King was entrenched, and came to our valley. To be fair, if it were you, you would have some confidence in reaching it. After Li Shaozhen finished speaking, everyone was silent. Lu Ya thought about it. Even for him, in this situation, he could rely more on the illusory luck, rather than his newly established foundation. Seeing that everyone was silent, Li Shaozhen said again, "Logically speaking, they should be exhausted from all the way, but when I went out, I saw the 2 of them. Although they looked ragged and covered with scars, there was not much fatigue in their eyes. On the contrary, after seeing me, they had a flash of excitement, and even their magic power fluctuated a little." According to what Li Daoyao said, did they come here on purpose for other purposes? Lu Dingbo's face was as gloomy as water, and his eyes flashed with cold light. Whether it was intentional or not, we'll know once we ask. Li Ziaozi changed his usual image of a kind old man. His powerful magic power fluctuated, and a strong pressure enveloped the entire space. In less than 2 minutes, Hanki and the other 2 who had just left returned to the tent. The moment they stepped into the tent, Li Ziaozi laughed, and there seemed to be a strange fluctuation in his laughter. He slowly said, "Look here." Hanki and the other 2 were confused for a moment when they heard the words, and then the light in their eyes disappeared, and they walked to Li Ziaozi in a daze. What kind of magic is this? Seeing this, Lu Yu couldn't help but be curious. Next, Li Ziaozi asked and answered the 2, and soon understood the whole thing clearly. However, after understanding it, everyone present looked ugly. Li Ziaozi sighed before speaking, "So, we have been noticed by the 3-eyed king. You are such a coward. You actually joined the demon tribe, trying to trick us into migrating, and then surround and kill us." Li Shaozhen smashed a coffee table beside him with a palm, and looked at the 2 with murderous intent in his eyes. Lu Yu shook his head and analyzed carefully. It shouldn't be yet. They just said that the 3-eyed king must clear the surrounding area before the beast-eyed army arrives, and then attack Shaoshan City. We are entrenched here, and the mission of General Qinglong under the 3-eyed king has not been completed. General Qinglong was afraid of being punished by the 3-eyed king, so he thought of this trick. He glanced at Li Ziaozi, and then said, "However, if it weren't for Mr. Li, we would still be fooled. Haha, this is just a little trick of bewitching. I'm sorry to make you laugh." Li Ziaozi smiled, and was obviously very happy to be praised by Lu Yao. Lu Yu changed the subject. "However, since the so-called Qinglong general under the throne of the 3-eyed king has regarded us as a thorn in his side, if the other party cannot pull us out, they can only report to the 3-eyed king. At that time, although it will not be good for it, we will have to face the wrath of the 3-eyed king." Everyone knew what the outcome would be when facing the wrath of the 3-eyed king. Li Yangsu looked desperate and said, "Then how should we deal with ourselves? Continue to migrate, but where can we migrate to?" As soon as the voice fell, even Lu Ya felt a sense of powerlessness in his heart. The world is so big, where can I settle down? Since he came to this world, except for a period of relatively peaceful days in the middle, the rest of the time he has been working hard. Working hard to practice, working hard to gain experience, and working hard to accumulate foundation. Originally thought that after building the foundation, the family would have no external threats and could live a stable life of practice. As a result, he didn't even stop, and the whole Yankee domain was in chaos. The big demon started a killing calamity, and even the Jinden's Henrin died. How could he stay out of it when he was building a foundation and had a family to take care of? "Everyone, I'm sorry for the past 2 days. My baby's condition has stabilized today and he doesn't have a fever anymore. He is currently in the hospital for observation. Thank you again for your tolerance and love. Lihu is very grateful. Chapter 118, Enchantment. In fact, at present, abandoning the slow-moving mortal relatives and taking advantage of the high mobility of the foundation-building cultivators to escape with the key cultivating cultivators is the simplest option. As the foundation-building cultivators, they are the pillars of the family. As long as they are still alive, they will be able to expand the family again sooner or later. But no one has thought about this problem, not even Liu Yao. They have already moved their entire family here. If they have such an idea, why bother? After a long time, Lu Dingbo slowly said, the three-eyed king and his men are targeting Shaoshan City. If we can stay away from the route to Shaoshan City as much as possible. In this way, just two families are like a speck of dust to the three-eyed king. It is not worth coming here in person. Can we escape this way? Difficult? Li Ziazi uttered a word with difficulty, and then said, even if we can avoid the pursuit of the three-eyed king this time, if the entire Yankai region becomes the territory of monsters in the future, how can we survive in the heart of monsters? Li Shaoan waved his hand, but hit nothing. He could only say, it's hateful. Why are our human race retreating step by step in the face of monsters, and there has been no movement from the top sects in Yankai region such as Yin Yang Holy Sect and Blood Refining Sect? Have they given up too? Although Yin Yang Holy Sect and Blood Refining Sect are the top sects in Yankai region, don't forget that there are no righteous sects among them. They are all demon sects, Lu Ya said in a faint voice. Lu Dinghe also nodded and said, let alone joining forces to fight against the beast tide, I will be thankful if they don't reach any agreement with the Demon King. If such straightforward words were heard by the disciples of the two sects, they would definitely point at Lu Ya and others and loudly accuse them of slander. Lu Dingbo glared at Lu Dinghe, and then hurriedly said, okay, don't worry about what those big sects do, just take care of our own lives. Li Ziazi sighed, now it seems that we have no choice but to continue to migrate. The tent fell silent again. After a long time, Lu Dingbo smiled and said, let's migrate. We have 5 more flying boats, and I believe the speed can be greatly improved. In the next 2 days, we will go to Wuhou Market to see if we can buy some earth dragons and the like, which can also speed up the travel speed. Okay, but where to migrate? Li Ziazi asked with a frown. After all, we can no longer go in the same direction as the beast tide, and we have to avoid the places where the major forces are entrenched. These are the territories that the monsters focus on attacking. Let's go slowly. The situation is unpredictable. It's too early to talk about this now, Lu Dingbo said helplessly. It can only be like this. A meeting concerning the future of the two clans ended in such a hurry. The next day, Lu Dingbo and Li Shaoan left the valley early in the morning and went to Wuhou Market to buy supplies and earth dragons. Lu Yu came to Li Ziazi. Dao Lu came to me, an old guy, early in the morning. What's the important matter? Seeing Lu Ya coming, Li Ziazi joked casually. He didn't dare to underestimate the young genius of the Lu family because of his low cultivation at the moment. Just relying on the fire that he couldn't even understand, it was enough to show his broad and endless path. To put it simply, as long as he can survive this killing calamity that swept across Yankai territory, Lu Ya's chance of achieving the golden core in the future is much greater than that of this old guy. If the Li family can handle the relationship with the Lu family well, it will be a huge profit. I'm sorry for disturbing you, Senior Li, Lu Ya bowed. Li Ziazi didn't care and pointed to the cushion in front of him. What are you disturbing? Please sit down, fellow Taoist Lu. After Lu Ya sat down, he got straight to the point. Fellow Taoist Li, what was the spell you used yesterday? As soon as he said this, Li Ziazi understood it instantly. Ha, it's just a small spell. I practiced it casually when I was bored. If fellow Taoist Lu wants to learn it, I will teach you. How can I do that? Lu Ya said that he couldn't do it, but his eyes were almost shining, waiting for the other party to speak. It's just a second-level elementary spell, how can it be used or not? Li Ziazi smiled slightly and waved his hand. Second-level elementary. Lu Yu paused, then said seriously, Mr. Li, the law should not be passed on lightly. Lu Yu wants to learn this spell. How many spirit stones or other items do you think are needed? Li Ziazi looked at Lu Ya with more and more satisfaction. He waved his hand and said, it is rare for our two families to share hardships together. There is no need to say more about this little spell. I will give it to you. No, Lu Yang hurriedly stopped him. "Don't say more." Li Ziazi threw a jade slip to Lu Yang, and Lu Yang held it in his palm. "Free is the most expensive." Lu Yang looked at the jade slip in his hand and silently remembered this favor in his heart. Seeing Lu Yang accept the jade slip, Li Ziazi smiled again and said, "This spell requires a certain talent for sound waves and a lot of practice. I will talk to you first. If you have any questions in the subsequent learning process, you can come to me at any time." Speaking of which, in addition to the wind shock curse acquired at the auction, this is Lu Ya's second offensive second-level spell, and it is also a special spell of sound waves. Lu Ya stood up and thanked him earnestly. "Thank you, Mr. Li. It's still early. I'll talk to you, then. I'm sorry to bother you. There's a team coming. It seems to be merchants." It's merchants. An excited voice sounded in the distance, reaching the ears of everyone in the dilapidated market. At this moment, those who were selling supplies, discussing the current situation, walking back and forth, and lying at home were awe-stunned. This dilapidated market was quiet at first, and then with a hum, it suddenly became lively and noisy. "You hide in the cave, I'll go and take a look." In a corner of a wall with a big hole, a beggar about 13 or 14 years old solemnly told the three clay dolls behind him, then quickly climbed out of the cave and rushed into the crowd. "The caravan has been late for 4 months. I finally waited for it. This time I must catch up with a caravan like Dazhuang and the others, and take Gosheng and the others to escape from this cannibalistic place." The beggar walked in the crowd, like a leaf falling in the water, being pushed in one direction by the flowing crowd. Everyone had an expectant smile on their face, and they stretched their necks to look into the distance. Since the beast eye began, the shop fronts of wealthy and well-connected people disappeared from this relatively prosperous market almost overnight, and the caravans have not come here for nearly half a year, almost making the people struggling to survive in this dilapidated market desperate. Now that they finally heard the news that the caravan was coming again, the whole dilapidated market was in turmoil. The beggar followed the crowd for a few minutes, and through the gaps between the crowd, he finally saw the figure of the caravan that people talked about. "Everyone, I have updated normally. I am still in the hospital, so the time may not be stable." Chapter 119, Rest. More than a dozen hideous and terrifying monsters lined up in a long line, stomping heavily on the ground, dragging huge carriages behind them, on which were piles of goods and shadowy people. On top of their heads, there were also human figures sitting cross-legged. In the eyes of the little beggar, they were so high and mighty, so calm and natural, so majestic. The beggar roughly estimated that this caravan had at least 300 people, which was larger than any caravan he had ever seen. It was definitely a large caravan that people often talked about. As the caravan approached, the originally excited crowd gradually became restless. The beggar could vaguely hear words like "not like a caravan" and "bringing families" from their mouths. This made his heart skip a beat, and regardless of the difference between immortals and mortals, relying on his small size, he hurriedly squeezed forward from under the crowd. When he finally squeezed to the front of the crowd, he saw a little girl about the same age as his sister sitting on the head of the hideous and terrifying beast, laughing happily. "It seems that this gathering place is about to be abandoned. Let's go to the next one." After getting some information, Lu Ya sat cross-legged on the top of the earth dragon, looking at the scattered cultivators and mortals piled up like refugees at the entrance of the market, and sighed in his heart. It has been a month since they migrated again. In this month, they have encountered no less than 10 gathering places of all sizes. But none of them were safe and sound. All the gathering places were attacked by monsters, and half of them were already dead areas, with only a few people lingering in the ruins. Relatively speaking, this gathering place in front of them is already pretty good. "Fellow Taoists, we have come here from afar. I wonder if you can tell us about the current situation of this gathering place." Li Shao stood on the top of the earth dragon and bowed to the 4 directions. His voice, with a weak magic power, reached the ears of everyone in front of him. The crowd who came to watch fell silent, and then hurriedly returned the greeting, and talked at the same time. The little beggar clearly heard that the term foundation building great cultivator appeared most frequently in the mouths of the immortal cultivators around him. There was a hint of envy and desire in their tone, and even a little beggar like him who could not read could understand how unattainable the man standing on the top of the monster was to them. "We must keep up with them, and we can survive if we follow them." A glimmer of hope flashed in the little beggar's eyes, and then he quietly listened to their words under the crowd. "Everyone, please be quiet." A steady and restrained voice sounded from the head of another earth-walking dragon, and the voice had a strange charm that made people inexplicably convinced. The little beggar looked up involuntarily, and saw a young man in a black robe in front of the team. Compared with his heroic face, what was more striking was that his eyes were like a bottomless pool of water, with a strange attraction that made people unable to help but indulge in it. Seeing the crowd below quickly quiet down and turn their eyes to him, Luya couldn't help but smile. This second-level magic, the soul-bewitching technique, was indeed useful. Although it was only used slightly, not at full strength, it also had a very obvious effect. He used his spiritual sense to scan the crowd below and roughly understood the strength distribution of the crowd below. Pointing to a male cultivator who looked pretty good in the late stage of key training, Luya asked, "When was the last beast tied?" The cultivator pointed by Luya trembled all over, and then replied respectfully, "Senior, the last beast tied was 13 days ago. Since then, our Bishanfang city has not been attacked by a large-scale beast tide. It's just some scattered monsters coming to attack." Luya was a little curious. "Oh? You are so lucky that you didn't encounter second-level monsters, Senior. There are some, but they come here mostly to find food. It seems that we are being kept in captivity by monsters." The cultivator lowered his head and finally said the word captivity in humiliation. A cultivator in the late stage of key training could actually say such words in public, which clearly reflected their current safety situation. Luya nodded, and then threw a medium-grade spirit stone to the other party. The sparkling spirit stone drew a perfect parabola in the air, passed through the beggar's vision, and fell into the hands of the cultivator. "Thank you, Senior, just a piece of news," and got 100 low-grade spirit stones, which was simply a good thing that fell from the sky. Luya's generosity attracted the casual cultivators below to look forward to it, all expecting that they would be the next one to be called. Luya looked around and selected a female cultivator in the 7th stage of key training. "Let me ask you, have other people come here during this period?" To reply, "Senior, no, the earliest batch of caravans was more than 4 months ago." When asked by Luya, the female cultivator was obviously a little excited, and unconsciously stroked her hair, looking at Luya with a pair of watery eyes. "Are they really all gone?" Luya paused, and casually threw out a medium-grade spirit stone. The female cultivator was a little embarrassed after failing to show off her beauty, but after getting the spirit stone, this embarrassment quickly disappeared. Luya sat cross-legged again and exchanged rumors with the others. Li Shao suggested, "It seems that this Bishanfang city has not entered the vision of the major demon kings. It is still safe. Why don't we rest here for 2 nights? People like us who practice cultivation can withstand long journeys, but the tribesmen are almost at their limit." "I don't agree. It's too risky. We have encountered beast tides of all sizes no less than 20 times along the way. If we encounter a large beast tide again, we may not be able to escape unscathed. In my opinion, it is better to continue on the road," Lu Dinghe objected in a firm tone. "What Taoist fellow Dinghe said makes sense, but if we keep being so tense, something might go wrong." Li Shaozhen also spoke up. "Although the casual cultivators in Bishanfang City have a hard time, the number of survivors is not low. Even if there is danger, it will not be too high. We should be able to deal with it. What if we encounter a Monster King level beast tide?" Lu Dinghe glared and immediately retorted. Li Shaozhen was a little angry. The last monster tide in this place was half a month ago, which means it has been abandoned, which is enough to prove that there is not much danger here." Watching the quarrel between several people, the others looked indifferent. This is the 10th person theory proposed by Luya, that is, no matter how appropriate their decision is to the situation at the time, there must be one person who always disagrees. And this person is Lu Dinghe. The few people quarreled for a while, and after analyzing the possible situations, they finally decided to rest in Bishanfang City for a few days. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 120. A sudden inspiration. Li Shao stood up and gestured to the people around him. "Fellow Daoists, we want to rest in your place for a few days. If there is any disturbance, please forgive us." After that, regardless of the reactions of the crowd, he drove the ground dragon to a corner of the market. Adult ground dragons are generally more than 5 meters tall, with thick skin and flesh and great endurance, but they are extremely docile and are the best camel beasts. At this moment, more than a dozen ground dragons stepped together, and the ground shook suddenly, as if a small earthquake had set off in the Bishan market. The little beggar watched the ground dragons passing by not far away, and saw ordinary people with ruddy faces and full of energy following quickly behind, and his heart was full of desire. But the difference between immortals and mortals has always made him dare not go forward. However, he has heard adults say that such caravans or families may recruit some servants or followers on the spot. And even if they don't recruit, he has decided to leave here after this team. Thinking of this, he looked at the mud under his feet. The weather was gradually turning around, and the mud was mixed with blood, garbage, feces, and even broken limbs. His nose had long been accustomed to the rotten and foul smells that surrounded him all the time. After staring at the team for a while, the beggar turned decisively and disappeared into the shadow of the building. At the edge of Bishanfang City, in a temporary tent, Lu Ya quickly ate up the food provided by the family. After a warm feeling came from his stomach, he sat cross-legged on the food and opened the skill panel. Name, Lu Yan. Lifespan, 21 277 years old. Realm, first level of foundation building. 37 out of 100. Skills, Peak of Chongchunkung. 6204/50000. Skills, Perfect Fire Controlling Technique, Golden Sword Key Transformation. 318540/40000. Wind Controlling Technique Transformation. 168756/200000. Peak of Wind Shocking Curse. 1857/50000. Peak of Water Controlling Technique. 47008/50000. Great Success of Rainbow Transformation. 3580/5000. Great Success of Gale Escape. 4412, 5000, Minor Success of Spirit Purification Technique. 251, 2000, Minor Success of Soul Bewitching Technique. 35, 2000, First Level of Weapon Refining Technique. 3540/5000, Magic Power, Sun True Fire, Magic Power Points. 0. Looking at the experience of skills such as Golden Sword Key, Lu Ya was full of expectations. Give him a little more time, and when he has maxed out the Wind Controlling Technique and Golden Sword Key, he will have 2 more magical powers. By then, his combat power will definitely have a qualitative leap. Lu Ya estimated that according to his current combat power, enemies in the middle stage of foundation building can hardly cause too much obstacles to him. Even if he faces the late stage of foundation building, there is a great possibility that he can win the battle. After the 2 magical powers are in place, he estimates that among the foundation building, except for those senior old people in the late stage of foundation building who have no hope of becoming a golden elixir and have stayed in the foundation building stage for 100 years, he will basically not encounter opponents. Even the senior old people in the late stage of foundation building are likely not his opponents. The only ones who can hinder him are those at the golden elixir level. When the 2 magical powers are born, there will be 2 more magical points. By then, Zuanyang Yikiju should break through the limit. The other spell should be the Swift Wind Escape or the Spirit Purification Technique. As the ancestral secret technique of the Lu family, the powerful effect of Zuanyang Yikiju is obvious to all. Whether it is strengthening the body, protecting the soul, or guiding the true fire of the sun, it is an excellent direction for the cultivator to improve. The Swift Wind Escape is an explosive escape technique, and its performance in pursuit and escape is also very eye-catching. As for the Soul Purification Technique, soul protection is the top priority, and he cannot ignore it. But it is too early to say these things now. Lu Ya stopped his habitual calculations and plans and focused his attention on the Soul Bewitching Technique. This technique is still somewhat useful, but it can only be used to bully low-level cultivators at present. If he really encounters cultivators of the same level or even high levels, unless he upgrades it to the peak level, it will basically not play much role. As expected, once the soul bewitching technique is used, it is not realistic for the opponent to become an idiot who can be slaughtered by him. Let's put the soul bewitching technique aside for now. It can be upgraded to the great perfection and can play a certain role. Now there is really no time, Lu Ya sighed. Why do I feel that after coming to this world, I am getting busier and busier, and I have no free time at all. I hope to leave Yankee territory as soon as possible and find a safe place to practice well. It would be best if no one disturbs me and I don't have contact with the outside world. When my magic skills are perfected, I can go wherever I want. The fantasy time ended and Lu Ya came back to his senses. At this time, there was a faint noise outside, which made him inexplicably have the urge to go and see. This feeling is a whim. Lu Ya followed this feeling and walked out. At this moment, in the open space of the temporary resettlement site, A group of independent cultivators from Bishanfang City were queuing up, and it seemed that there was nothing strange. As soon as Lu Ye appeared, he attracted everyone's attention, with expectations and envy in their eyes. There was no way. Who made him a powerful foundation-building cultivator? Lu Ye looked at the team, and at the front were some independent cultivators with good cultivation. At this moment, they surrounded Lu Feng and tried their best to show themselves. This is to recruit family followers. Don't think that it is a self-degrading act for a cultivator in the late stage of key training to serve as a follower. In this precarious life, I don't know how many people want to follow such a powerful family. Moreover, these followers are not servants who handle daily chores, but more combat followers, that is, they need to do their best to fight in battle, and the Lu family will provide protection. When encountering monsters far superior to them, the foundation-building people of the Lu and Li families will take action. Lu Ye glanced over, but he didn't find anything. This was also the disadvantage of a whim. He just shuddered. As for the aftermath, it was not his responsibility. So he walked away and went to a place with more people. After walking a few steps, Lu Ye turned his head. In his field of vision, Zion Oluo was playing with mud with a few little clay dolls. And from time to time he would wipe the mud on his little hands on the fat rabbit with slick fur lying beside him. Seeing Lu Ye looking over, Zion Oluo shouted happily, "Second brother." Lu Ye smiled and nodded, his eyes focused on the three little clay dolls beside Zion Oluo. Not far away, the beggar who had been carefully washed with clean water was also watching this scene. "Brother, can we take Gosheng and the others with us when we leave?" Little Radish held Fat Rabbit's ears and looked at Lu Ye with big eyes and asked. "Oh? Why does Little Radish want to take them?" Lu Ye asked. Little Radish replied, "As a matter of course, because we can play together." Lu Ye smiled and nodded, turned to look at the boy not far away, and waved at him. The little beggar looked around at first, and then seemed to understand that Lu Ye was calling him, so he suppressed his excitement and walked quickly to Lu Ye. Lu Ye looked at the slightly nervous young boy in front of him, and then followed his gaze to look at Gosheng mentioned by Little Radish. "Are there any adults in your family?" Replying to the immortal, "We are all orphans without parents. Dear all, remember to vote." Chapter 121, starting again. Immortal? I'm not. Lu Ye shook his head and denied the title. He asked again, "What's your name, Immortal?" "My name is Chu Liddy. I gave it to myself," the little beggar said, and proudly straightened his thin chest. "Liddy, what a good name. I want to ask you, are you brothers willing to go on the road with us?" Chu Liddy bent his knees and was about to kneel down, shouting, "Thank you, Immortal," but he knelt halfway. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't kneel down anymore. He raised his head and saw Lu Ye holding up one hand and said to him, "Since you named yourself Liddy, you should stand tall and upright. How can you kneel down easily? Remember, from now on, you are not allowed to kneel again. You must live up to the name you gave yourself." Chu Liddy looked at Lu Ye in confusion, but still nodded seriously and vigorously, indicating that he would remember it. Lu Ye put down his hand, then turned to Little Radish and said, 13th sister, take these friends to find Uncle 3 and tell them that I told you to keep the 4 of them." Little Radish immediately cheered, "Second brother is the best." Then he called his friends around him and turned around and left. Lu Ye watched them leave and said to Chu Liddy, "You go too, don't worry." "Yes." Chu Li nodded and hurriedly followed the people who left. After doing this, Lu Ye turned around again, and when he found nothing else, he returned to the house. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. This morning, the tribesmen who had been resting for 2 days swept away their previous fatigue. They were full of energy, packed their bags, and loaded the supplies onto the frame behind the ground dragon. Obviously, they were going to set off again. In the square of the temporary resettlement site, the recruitment work had reached its final stage. Senior, please take me with you. I can make pills, I really can make pills, please believe me." A thin and pale young man, with tears streaming down his face, kept begging Lu Feng. Lu Feng was not moved at all. If he was a real pill refiner, how could he fall to this point? Moreover, he was asked to demonstrate on the spot, but he couldn't even make a low-level key-boosting pill. "You're a piece of trash who can only make some low-level stuff, get out of here." Beside Lu Feng, a tall and strong man grabbed the pale young man's neck and threw him out of the crowd, then looked at Lu Feng with a flattering smile. "Senior, don't bother with him. He's just a jerk who makes some low-level stuff. He has no real skills at all. Look at me, I have plenty of strength." Lu Feng observed him carefully, then nodded. You are at the 7th level of key training, and you have a certain level of body training. Not bad. What's your name? Do you want to join our clan as a war servant, or just follow behind the convoy? The strong man hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said firmly, Senior, I am willing to join the clan and become a war servant. People die every day in the Bishanfang city. If he stays here, he will die sooner or later. It is better for him to join this foundation-building family. Although he is a war servant, he will not have to worry about sudden death. Lu Feng nodded with satisfaction. Yes, take the oath. You will join our clan, and the rules will be explained to you. At noon, the sky was blue without any clouds. The members of the Lu and Li clans had packed up all their things and loaded them onto the carriage. With a long and loud shout, the earth dragon slowly moved its sturdy limbs and walked towards the outside of Bishan Market. Chu Lidi brought his 3 brothers and sisters, wearing neat gray robes, lying on the edge of the carriage, looking at the gloomy people on both sides of the road, feeling very fortunate. Fortunately, they were favored by the big figures of the Lu family, otherwise they would still be hiding in the shadows of the buildings like before, without seeing the sun. Brother, our Lu family is so good, Gauden sniffed, with a big smile on his face, a little silly. Of course, you have to be more sensible in the future, grow up quickly, and contribute to the family, understand? Chu Lidi also smiled, and then seriously admonished his 3 brothers and sisters. I know, you've said it many times, big brother, Gu Sheng and the others said one after another. Chu Lidi stopped talking and sat quietly on the edge of the frame. When they left Bishan Market, the speed of the earth dragon began to increase, and the scenery on both sides of the road quickly receded. The wind blowing in his face almost made him unable to open his eyes, so he had to turn his back. He turned around and saw that at the end of the team, a large group of people followed the team silently, keeping a distance. This scene reminded him of the last time Da Zhuang left like this. I don't know if Da Zhuang has lived a good life in the big city he mentioned before, Chu Lidi muttered to himself, gradually becoming absent-minded. After leaving Bishan Market, they soon entered the wilderness, and after the initial freshness, Gauden and the others soon lost interest in this boring and tedious journey, and fell asleep leaning against the railings. Chu Lidi was also a little bored, but he was sensible and did not show any impatience. He still sat quietly, trying to open his eyes and observe the distance. The speed of the earth dragon was not slow. After an afternoon of traveling, the number of people following it had decreased by 1/3. But even so, the remaining people were unwilling to give up and tried their best to catch up with the earth dragon. At night, the earth dragon formed a circle, and everyone was inside the circle, safe and sound. Immortal, you are looking for me. In the temporary tent, Chu Lidi stood respectfully in front of Lu Yang. Lu Yang motioned him to sit down, and waited until he sat down before asking, is there anything you are not used to in the life of the tribe? Chu Lidi thought about it and nodded. Lu Yang was surprised for a moment, and his first reaction was that they were bullied, but then he denied this idea and asked, what is it that you are not used to? It's not cold anymore, we can eat and wear warm clothes, and we are not beaten and scolded for no reason. We don't have to be so cautious. It's a bit unusual, Chu Lidi said truthfully. Well, is that so? Then you may need more time to adapt. Lu Yang was speechless for a moment, so he had to change the subject. I called you here to see what your aptitude is. Stretch out your hand. Chu Lidi stretched out his right hand as he was told. The back of his thin hand was covered with frostbite and scars. He was a little embarrassed to turn his palm upwards, trying to show the intact side. Lu Yang held his hand and slowly released a trace of magic power. The magic power passed through his palm and entered Chu Lidi's body along the meridians. After circling 3 big circles, Lu Yang took back the magic power and looked at Chu Lidi with a strange expression. Chu Lidi was a little unsure about his appearance, and then he asked nervously, Immortal? Lu Yang put down his hand, and when he looked at Chu Lidi again, he had returned to his previous indifference. The aptitude is not bad, you can practice. Everyone, remember to vote. Chapter 122, Encountering the Beast Tide Again. Really? Chu Lidi exclaimed in surprise, a little bit unbelievable. Lu Yang nodded. Seeing Lu Yang's affirmation, he said excitedly, great, this way I can be like the immortals and contribute to the family in the future. Lu Yang shook his head and asked him to sit down. Contributing to the family is still too far away. The family does not need you to contribute at present. Eat more and grow more, which is the right thing to do. Later, you will go to Uncle Lu Tong and tell him that you can practice, and let him include you in the family practice course. Okay, I understand. Chulidi nodded heavily and then left the tent. Luya looked at his back as he left, and couldn't help moving his fingers, muttering to himself, this is really lucky. He is actually a top-level practice qualification with clear meridians. Clear meridians mean that it is extremely easy to draw ki into the body, and the practice speed after embarking on the path of practice will be faster than that of ordinary people. Such qualifications are also rare in ordinary sects. Once they appear, they will be rushed to be admitted into the mountain gate. Chulidi's aptitude is much higher than that of everyone in the Lu family. Theoretically, his upper limit is also higher than that of everyone, except Lu Yang. He took out the sound transmission talisman, said a few words, and then activated it. The sound transmission talisman turned into ashes in the magic power. At the same time, a sound transmission talisman on Lu Tong's side lit up from the storage bag. Lu Tong took out the sound transmission talisman and saw that it was sent by Lu Yang, and his eyes were even more surprised. After listening to the message, his face was full of surprise. However, he still followed Lu Yang's request and waited for Chulidi's arrival without making a sound. The days of rushing on the road were boring and monotonous, and it would be like this as long as there were no monsters. In addition to practicing, Lu Yang basically put aside the practice of other spells and devoted himself to the practice of golden sword energy and wind control. 3 days later, less than half of the casual practitioners in Bishanfang City followed a team. Chulidi changed to a ground dragon and began to study the practice courses every day. The monster is coming. With a shout, Chulidi saw his friends lying on the wooden board one by one, holding the table legs fixed on the board tightly with their hands. Lu Hong is 13 years old this year. Seeing him like this, he hurriedly urged him. Chulidi didn't understand why, but under Lu Hong's urging, he also quickly got under the table. The skillful movements made Lu Hong stunned. Lu Hong, what's going on? Chulidi turned his head and looked at Lu Hong and asked. What else could it be? The monster is coming. Lu Hong's eyes were full of worry. Chulidi didn't know, but they had followed the family through countless beast tides, so of course they understood. Be alert later. Keep an eye on me. If I make any moves, you must follow me. Do you understand? Chuli nodded, and his expression became solemn. Under the command, the ground dragons slowly moved together, leaving no gaps between them, and soon they were ready to resist the impact of the monster. One by one, the family monks and war servants rushed out of the carriages they were in, and came to the front of the beast tide, blocking the ground dragon and the beast tide. In front of them was the huge body of Modu. And 8 foundation-building monks such as Lu Yao who were standing in the air. Everyone, cheer up, don't be careless. Although this sentence has been said countless times, Lu Dingbo still said it tirelessly. When he finished speaking, Lu Yao took the lead, turned into a rainbow light, and rushed towards the beast tide. Modu followed closely behind, his huge body winding like a dragon, full of power. The other foundation-building monks did not do as Lu Yao did, and they all sacrificed their magic tools and cast spells. The beast tide was vast, and Lu Yao quickly flew in front of the beast tide. A demon beast with a height of more than 5 meters and bone spurs all over its head burst out with demonic power, instantly soared into the air, and pounced on Lu Yao, with its bloody mouth wide open, as if to swallow him in one gulp. A second-level primary demon beast. Lu Yao bent his finger and a light red finger force shot out, and in the blink of an eye it reached its head. The bone spurs all over the monster's head and the boiling demonic power did not provide any protection. The light red finger force easily penetrated it, drove straight into it, and exploded in its brain. In an instant, the monster's soaring body stiffened and fell downwards as if it had lost power. This is the power of the golden sword energy now. If a second-level primary monster is not prepared, it has basically no resistance. The death of a monster did not cause any ripples. More and more monsters jumped up from the ground and rushed towards Lu Yao from all directions, almost drowning him in the beast tide. Such a formation made the war servants who had just joined terrified, almost subconsciously thinking that this reckless foundation building would be buried in the mouth of the beast. But the next moment, a burst of golden red flames rose from the monster group. Then Lu Yao appeared in everyone's sight without a scratch. Is this the horror of foundation building? A war servant in the late stage of key training couldn't help but mutter to himself. Beside him, a war servant who had joined earlier curled his lips and felt that it was necessary to popularize it to the newcomers, so he said, "This is not the horror of foundation building, but Senior Lu Yao is too terrifying." Only Senior Liu can do this kind of thing. Other foundation building seniors will not do this kind of thing. In fact, he didn't say the second half of the sentence, that is, other foundation building cultivators are unlikely to do this kind of thing. But just keep this in mind, it would be a bit ungrateful to say it out loud. My fellow Taoist, would Senior Liu accept a disciple? What do you think of me? The war servant who was popularized looked at the senior beside him with hope. Don't dream, Senior Liu doesn't have enough time to practice himself. How can he care about you and others? Just do your own thing honestly, don't think about it. After being hit back mercilessly, the newly joined war servant was not annoyed. He held the magic weapon in his hand more tightly and stared at the blazing sea of fire in the distance. After being intercepted by Lu Ya and others, the momentum of the beast tide was obviously slowed down, and the pressure on the key training monks in the back was also much less. After waiting for a while, Lu Hong sneaked to the edge of the frame and looked out through the gap. There were many people who did the same thing as him, all looking at the battle in front of them with worry. Chu Lidi also looked at the battle in front of him through the gap, stunned. He had never thought that such a powerful and terrifying monster would be killed so easily. It looked easier than killing a chicken. It seems that the beast tide this time is not big, there shouldn't be too many problems. Lu Hong looked at it for a while, and finally put his mind at ease, muttering to himself. Why do you say that? I think there are still many monsters. Chu Lidi heard this and turned to look at Lu Hong, his eyes still full of shock. Because so far, our defense line has not been breached. This is the best proof, Lu Hong said as a matter of course. Everyone, remember to vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Cruel. Chu Lidi realized it, and the light in his eyes almost condensed into substance. Before this, he only thought that cultivating immortals was something that could make his life better. But from this moment on, his concept changed. He also wanted to become a powerful cultivator who could kill demons as easily as killing chickens, and to become a powerful cultivator who could travel between heaven and earth. The battle came quickly and went quickly. With the charge of Lu Ya and Modu and other foundation building people, this beast tide that did not even have a second level peak demon beast was quickly dispersed by the cultivators and began to flee. Ho, is it over? Behind the Earth Dragon team, a casual cultivator in the middle stage of key training who could not join the migration team, gasped heavily, wiped the smelly blood splashed on his face, and looked forward with lingering fear. He clutched the magic weapon that he regarded as his life, and looked around with a pair of bloodshot eyes. After more than 10 breaths, there was still no demon beast rushing over. He finally confirmed that this beast tide was over. Is this what it feels like to face a head-on beast tide? He couldn't help but tremble as he spoke, as if he could vent his fear and anxiety in this way. Tisk, a sneer sounded from the side. He turned his head and glared at it. Then his eyes quickly became kind, because the one who laughed at him was a cultivator in the late stage of key training. Why don't you accept it? The bearded man who laughed at him wiped the magic weapon on the soft fur of the monster a few times, then said, You have to understand, we are following the foundation building family in front, and most of the attention of the monsters is borne by the cultivators of the foundation building family in front. Those who fall on our heads are all those who slip through the net. This is also because the Lu family and the Li family are kind-hearted. If we were in other places, we would definitely become the first batch of cannon fodder and be filled into the mouths of monsters. At this point, the bearded man had already put away his magic weapon, looked at him meaningfully, and turned around to start dealing with the corpses of the monsters. Time was running out. The bearded man, who had followed Lu in past 3 gathering places, knew that they would be on the road again soon. If they didn't seize the time at this moment, they would have to give up collecting the spoils. There were quite a few experienced people. The monks of Bishanfang looked at the busy figure of the bearded man, and the fear and anxiety on their faces had been replaced by excitement. In the previous battle, he killed a total of 3 monsters, 1 first-level intermediate and 2 primary. These materials alone could make him a small fortune. Skinning, deboning, taking meat, after a series of processes, his originally limited strength quickly disappeared. He sat on a monster, intending to take a short rest before continuing. But as soon as he sat down, he heard a loud shout, Let's go! We are leaving now. How much time has passed? Don't they need to rest? I haven't dealt with my monsters yet. Some panic, some complaints. But this was not the time to complain. He quickly stood up, and with nimble hands and feet, he used his strength to cut off the valuable parts of the monster. Seeing the ground dragon gradually begin to move forward, he looked up every few breaths to confirm the team in front. Finally, the ground dragons formed a column and began to move forward again. The bearded man was carrying a dirty animal skin bag of moderate size. He glanced at the casual cultivators who were still racing against time to collect materials from the monsters, with a hint of disdain in his eyes, and quickly caught up with the team that was gradually moving away. Wait for me, the cultivator from Bishanfang finally finished collecting. With little mana and physical strength left, he carried a huge backpack and staggered forward with difficulty, shouting. But no one stopped for him even a step. He walked slower and slower, watching the team getting farther and farther away. No, wait for me. Until this moment, he was unwilling to put down the spoils that he had already collected. There was a small group of people like him. He turned his head and found that they were all acquaintances from Bishanfang City. Until the team gradually disappeared from his sight, he understood why there were not many monks following this huge team, and their strength was not weak. So, I don't even have the brain to take a rest under the big tree. He smiled bitterly and wanted to throw away the backpack that seriously slowed down his speed, but found that it was too late. Late at night, the migration team was still moving forward slowly. Luya sat cross-legged on the top of the earth-walking dragon in the middle of the team, holding a black and white longevity bead in his hand. There's less than half left, and the lifespan will be collected. The longevity bead feels warm to the touch, and now in the dark night, it emits a soft white glow. Luya played with it for a few times, and then put it away again. Then he looked up at the night sky. The stars are shining brightly tonight, and under the soft starlight, it seems that the entire night sky is covered with a layer of hazy colorful clothes. How long has it been since I saw such a pure starry sky? Luya thought in his heart. As he remembered, when he was a child, he often lay in the shed outside the old house on summer nights, happily counting the stars, and fantasizing that one day he would be able to reach the sky and pick the stars. As he grew older, this simple and plain dream was gradually thrown into the depths of his mind. Until now, Luya felt the endless flow of magic power in his body, and looked at the brightest star in the night sky again. One day, I will pick you off. After walking for another 15 days, the wilderness gradually faded away, and a faint road appeared on the ground. Seeing this, the team, which already had rich experience in migration, understood that they were about to enter an area of human activity. Or rather, an area of human activity in the past. The monks and the team looked cautious, and the atmosphere of the entire team became solemn. Every time you set foot in an area of human activity is an adventure, because you don't know whether you will encounter a human or a monster entrenched there. The team walked for another half a day, and the wilderness had completely disappeared, and pieces of fields appeared in everyone's sight. If it were in the past, this season should be the best time for farming. But now, these fields are obviously unattended, and there is no crop to be seen, only weeds are growing wantonly. Luya looked down and could still see the faint white bones among the weeds. Obviously, this area has been invaded by monsters. Ordinary people who were struggling to survive may have disappeared completely. Luya looked away as usual, and his heart was awe-inspiring. Fortunately, his time-traveling skills are pretty good. If he traveled to become an ordinary person in this world, even if he had a skill panel, he probably wouldn't be able to wait until the day he could practice. Nephew, I checked the map and checked with some cultivators in Bishanfang City. If we go further, we should see a smaller medium-sized city called Yang's. Lu Feng flew to Luya with a magic weapon, pointed to the distance and continued to say to Luya, Yang's city should belong to the Kangling sect. The sect master is a giant in Henren, but I don't know his specific strength. Luya stood up and bowed. Thank you for telling me, uncle. Lu Feng waved his hand and flew to the back. I'll go talk to others. Dear friends, please subscribe and remember to vote. Chapter 124 Forced to enter the city. After more than half an hour, Yang's city was already in sight. This is a big city like a mountain. From a high place, the whole city gradually rises from the outside to the inside. The tall blue-black city walls are like a giant dragon winding at the foot of the mountain. Avenues are like waterfalls falling from the top of the mountain, dividing the entire Yang's city into dozens of areas. Various buildings are lined up one after another. At the top of the mountain, there stands a magnificent palace, which should be the city lord's mansion. However, at this time, what appeared in the eyes of Liu Yang and others was a dilapidated scene. The dragon was broken, the waterfall dried up, and even the palace at the top of the mountain collapsed in half, and the dry blood covered the entire city. It is conceivable what kind of devastation this city and the human race in it have suffered. The pace of the ground dragon gradually slowed down, and finally turned into uneasy steps in place. No matter how the Beastmaster urged it, it would not move forward. Such an abnormal phenomenon of the ground dragon naturally attracted everyone's attention. The 8 foundation builders, Lu and Li, rose into the air and gathered together. Li Xiao suggested directly, the earth dragon stopped moving forward. After all, there is a great terror ahead. Let's take a detour, everyone nodded. No one cared about the miserable situation in Yuan's city, nor would they care. Seeing that everyone reached a consensus, Li Xiaoan was ready to order a detour. At this time, Liu Yang and Li Xiaozi suddenly turned around and looked into the distance. Everyone didn't understand why, but they looked in the direction of curiosity. On the left and right sides behind the team, a large number of monsters surged from the field of vision like a tide, quickly approaching the migrating team. Trap. These 2 words appeared in everyone's mind. But the next moment, they turned their heads to look at the dilapidated Yang's city. At this moment, the dilapidated and desolate Yang's city lord's mansion was like a hungry beast. The collapsed half was like a bloody mouth, waiting for the team in front of them to be forced into the city and swallowed up. It was too late to escape now. It was not realistic to defend on the spot. The beast tide they encountered this time was larger than any previous one. Once the 2 beast tides came into contact, they would surround them like a wave and shrink rapidly. At that time, they would not be able to run away even if they wanted to. The movement behind them also attracted the attention of the others. Seeing the beast tide like an ocean, everyone felt chilled. Liu Yu made a prompt decision and shouted to pull everyone back from panic. Everyone, enter the city at full speed. The people below suddenly woke up as if from a dream. They saw the Earth Dragon Beastmaster activating the secret method. The eyes of the Earth Dragon that had stopped suddenly turned red, roared, and rushed towards the wide-open gate of Yuan's city. Liu Yu turned and rushed to the back of the team. At the same time, Mo Du fell from the sky. Li Xiaozi flashed and appeared beside Liu Yang, walking with Liu Yang. There was still some distance from Yuan's city. According to the speed of the beast tide gathering, it would definitely catch up with them before the team entered Yuan's city. Therefore, only they had to go through the process of blocking the beast tide, buying time for the others to enter the city and start defense. Seeing Liu Yu take the lead, Lu Dingbo immediately gave a loud order, all the late key training masters, follow me to resist the beast tide. If we win this battle, the war servants will be promoted to guest officials of the family, and the wanderers can be included in the family as war generals. The rest of you quickly enter the city, close the city gates, and defend the city. After saying that, he looked at Liu Yang on the back of the Earth Dragon and said, Liu Yang, you are responsible for the rest of the affairs. After entering the city, you must organize defense as quickly as possible. After saying that, Lu Dingbo did not even look back, and the magic power around him burst out, turning into rainbow light and chasing Liu Yang. Lu Dinghe followed closely behind, and the rest of the foundation building masters also quickly rushed to the battlefield. On the ground, after hearing Lu Dingbo's order, all the late key training masters of the Lu and Li families, whether they were clansmen or war servants, all drove their magic weapons into the sky, and at the end of the team, the wandering cultivators who had been following them did not care so much at this moment, and rushed towards the beast tide behind them. Boom boom boom. A loud noise like a tsunami came from the ground, which was the vibration caused by the rush of thousands of beasts. Liu Yu looked back, slowed down gradually, and began to cast spells on himself. A layer of protective aura, a golden amulet was cast, and Liu Yu was immediately covered in a thick magic shield. Then he clenched one hand, and a long sword appeared in his hand. However, after seeing several second-level high-level monsters with terrifying auras running at the front of the team, his face became a little ugly. His defensive methods are still effective against second-level primary or intermediate monsters, and can also play a certain role against second-level high-level monsters alone. But if facing multiple second-level high-level monsters at the same time, then this protective aura is not much stronger than a layer of paper shell on the surface of the body, and it is not as good as the defense of his own body. After this battle is over, I must make a second-level protective spell, Liu Ya said while standing side by side with Mo Du. The opponent's forward was too strong. If he continued to do what he did in the past, He might be killed instantly by concentrated fire. Be steady when you should be steady, and be reckless when you should be reckless. This is the experience that Liu Ye has taken as a criterion after playing games for many years. 3 breaths later, Lu Dingbo and others arrived one after another. 10 breaths later, the beast tide was in sight. Liu Ye could even smell a strong body odor that could not be dissolved. 13 breaths later, more than 50 late-stage key training cultivators appeared about 100 steps behind Liu Ye and others, and formed a simple 3-talent formation, ready to engage in battle. Kill! With a roar, everyone turned into rainbow light and rushed against the wind towards the surging beast tide. Modu dragged Liu Ye, and his huge horn was scorching hot. The next moment, a dark ray shot from the tip of the horn to a four-armed, four-eared ape-like monster in front. Facing Modu's attack, the four-armed ape let out a thunderous roar, and a thick layer of demonic power suddenly appeared on its 4 fists, blasting at the incoming rays from 4 directions. The ray collided with a giant fist, and a shock of demonic power spread in all directions. The four-armed monkey retracted its 4 fists as if it had been electrocuted. It saw that there was a large area of corrosion on the surface of its fists, and blood flowed down along the lines of its palms. It suffered a great loss in the first contact. But before it could get angry, it saw a dazzling knife light shining in front of its eyes. At this moment, it was the time when its old strength was exhausted and the new strength had not yet been born. It wanted to block the knife, and regardless of the crackling sound of its body, it forced its fist to block in front of it. But it was still a little slow, and the knife light brushed its fist and crossed its thick neck. Puff! A 4-eared monkey head fell, and the hot demon blood sprayed out like a high-pressure water gun with a hiss sound. Then it slowly fell, like a small blood rain. Chapter 125, Life and Death. After killing a second-level high-level monster with 1 strike, Liu Ye did not relax at all. He exerted force on his arm, and the long sword turned into a residual image, shooting at another second-level high-level monster that rushed towards him. Then he flicked his hands, and a series of light red sword energy that barely caused a wave of air fluctuations shot from his fingertips towards the monsters that were besieging him. In the chaotic battlefield, this sword energy that did not even cause a wave of mana did not attract the attention of the monsters at all. Several second-level monsters still rushed towards Liu Ye, their eyes full of crazy killing intent. Puff puff puff. The next second, the sound of flesh and blood being pierced rang out, and a bunch of blood flowers bloomed from all parts of the monster's body. The seemingly powerless golden sword energy finally revealed its ferocious fangs at this moment, licking the plump flesh of the monsters in front of it unscrupulously. In the blink of an eye, all the monsters that tried to besiege Liu Ye were injured. The most aggressive blue bull monster immediately gave up its front hooves, and its huge body fell down like a golden mountain, and its sharp horns plowed the ground. Ayo how! With a wild roar, Liu Ye felt a fishy wind blowing in his face, causing his skin to ache. Gale escape! His body was wrapped in the exploding gust of wind, and he disappeared from the spot in an instant. At the moment he disappeared, a sharp claw passed by the place where he was originally standing. If Liu Ye was a little slower, he would have been ripped open at this moment. The gust of wind dissipated, and Liu Ye appeared 10 feet away. He looked towards his original position and saw a giant mantis 3 feet tall appear there. The mantis's entire body was like jade, with long and powerful legs full of explosive power. The 2 wings as thin as cicada wings flapped at high frequency, like 2 green lights floating behind it. The 2 blade-like forelimbs were like 2 crescent moons. In the inverted triangle head, 2 black compound eyes emitted a chilling light. It seemed to be the synonym of killing, the harvester of life. At this moment, the 2 forelimbs of the jade mantis rubbed against each other anxiously, and it raised its head and let out a roar similar to the dragon's roar that was enough to pierce the eardrum, and its demonic power was radiated around without any scruples. Level 2 peak. Liu Ye looked at the jade mantis cautiously, and its ghostly and silent speed made him afraid. If it weren't for the fast enough speed of the hurricane escape, he would have died on the spot with a sneak attack just now. The lethality represented by the 2 blade forelimbs made Liu Ye have no intention of resisting it. Perhaps it had vented enough. The jade mantis's huge compound eyes locked onto Liu Ye again, and with a flap of its wings, it instantly disappeared from its original position. Liu Ye's heart twitched, and his magic power burst out. He activated the wind escape again and appeared 5 meters away. As soon as he stopped, a blurry green afterimage appeared behind him, and the blade swept towards him. Before it touched him, the invisible sword energy had already cut off his long hair and back. Whoosh! Luya could only use the wind escape again. In less than a breath, he changed his position 4 times, but every time he appeared, the jade mantis appeared behind him like a shadow. And its sharp forelimbs were getting closer and closer. He could only use the wind escape continuously, desperately dodging, and running around. Within 10 meters of the battle between the two, the wind roared, the sword energy was crisscrossed, and no monster dared to set foot in this space. Luya showed up again, pointed with one hand, and the blue-black gale formed by the windshock curse appeared out of thin air behind him. As if it was agreed, the jade mantis fell directly into the dark blue wind as soon as it appeared, which caused its movements to pause for a moment. It was this pause that finally gave Luya a chance to catch his breath. His eyes suddenly shot out 2 extremely dazzling rays of light, which just hit the jade mantis's huge compound eyes. The strong light made it unconsciously turn its head, and the wings behind it vibrated violently, instantly breaking the strong wind. At this moment, a beam fire exploded in front of it, and instantly turned into a sea of fire, covering both. Luya did not retreat but advanced, holding a long sword, and arrived in an instant. Hiss! The jade mantis roared again, and its inverted triangle head turned, accurately facing Luya's position, and one of its blade forelimbs cut a wind and fire, slashing towards Luya. With a click, the top-grade magic weapon longsword in Luya's hand broke, and the other blade forelimb slashed towards him without hesitation. Luya held a black tortoise shield in his other hand, and his magic power poured into it without reservation. The black tortoise shield suddenly turned into a huge shield of more than 10 feet, and Luya was firmly protected inside. Zula, because the distance was too close, the blade forelimbs only cut a half-meter deep crack in the black tortoise shield, and Luya used the shield to repel it. In a flash, the two had fought several times. If Luya had not built his foundation in the heavenly way, his body would be solid and his spiritual sense would be far superior to that of ordinary foundation-building cultivators. He was also very successful in body training and had sharp reactions. He would probably not be able to keep up with the terrifying speed of the jade mantis. Luya directly dropped the black tortoise shield and retreated explosively. His 2 arms were numb from the shock. With this barrier, the sea of fire had surrounded the jade mantis. The exploding sun's true fire rushed towards it, and the jade mantis felt the threat of death from it. It flapped its wings and was about to retreat. Luya looked at the jade mantis still suspended in the air and grinned. Behind it, its wings, as thin as a cicada's wing, had been melted by the high temperature of the sun's true fire at close range, and the remaining half was also melting rapidly. Swish! Swish! The jade mantis slashed out 2 blade beams, forcing Luya to retreat. Then its strong and powerful hind legs stepped into the air, directly stepping on the blast of the strong wind, and jumped out of the sea of fire. Looking at the jade mantis jumping out of the sea of fire, Luya did not chase it. He collected the sea of fire in the sky, and used the gale escape again, flying towards Modu. At the same time, he took out a bottle of elixir from the storage bag, raised his head and swallowed a few, and urged his mana to start refining the medicinal power. Although the fight with the jade mantis just now lasted only a few breaths, the danger level was directly maxed out. He tried his best to seize the opportunity to force the jade mantis back, but his own mana was already running out. When the gust of wind dissipated, he reappeared beside Modu. His abdomen was boiling hot, and streams of pure spiritual energy were constantly transformed into his own magic power by his Danshin Ki Si, filling his whole body. Only then did Luya exhale a breath of turbid air, and his body shook involuntarily. He looked at the jade mantis falling into the monster tide with lingering fear. Finally safe. This battle was too dangerous. All his defenses were useless in front of the jade mantis's super category attack. The speed was too terrifying. He was fighting for his life and racing against the god of death. Life and death were only a matter of a moment. No one could do better than him if they were replaced by any other foundation building. In fact, it was true. Except for Li Xiaozi, who looked a little solemn, the other foundation building people watched Luya fight with a jade mantis, and their backs were almost wet with cold sweat. Everyone, remember to vote. The doctor just informed that the baby will be discharged from the hospital soon. The H1N1 flu is really serious. Everyone should pay attention to protection. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.